Hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. Today, my guest is Sadie. She is originally from Iran. That's correct, right?
Yep.
And is now part of the diaspora. Is that right?
Yep.
And so I just wanted to talk to her about everything because of everything that's going on and interviewing people from all over, everything that has to do with the revolution and everything that's going on right now. And I thought that she was pretty interesting because I had a little bit of a conversation with her. So I wanted to just see what she had to say about everything and see how everything's going. So, how's it going?
Hey, Josh, and hey, everyone watching. It's going good. Thanks for having me. Let's get started.
Okay, so what I first wanted to ask you was like, so you were born and raised in Iran, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So I'm 33 years old. I was born in Iran and I moved to Canada when I was 11. But then at the age of 16, I went back to Iran because I was homesick and I was lonely here. And so I went and stayed another 11 years in Iran. So I went to university there, pretty much built a whole life there until I realized that I can't grow there, nothing that I'm allowed to do. And, the economy was terrible. I literally lost every freedom that I'd gained in Canada. So I came back again at the age of 25 to Canada, 2018. And it's been like 9 years ever since.
Yeah, it
So
has
it's
been
been
9 years,
a lot of
hasn't it?
time.
Time flies by. 2018 was 9 years ago. That's crazy. But okay, so how old were you when you said you left the first time?
11.
11 years old. So you
Yeah.
immigrated with somebody,
With
obviously.
my family. Yeah, with my family.
Was it was it very difficult to get out of the country?
My dad had like this amazing case where he had like American education because when he was younger, he came to America, he got his master's. He had like 4 children. His English was great. So we hit all the points.
Mm.
And within like 2 years, our case was accepted. And that was like two when I came here first. There wasn't a lot of competition amongst the Iranians back then. There surely wasn't all of these Persians in Toronto and Canada in general. So a lot of things have changed. Now there's a huge population of diaspora here for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I've noticed that there were a lot of people in Canada. I was a little surprised by that. I usually thought people would tend to go to the United States if they were going to go to North America.
You tell them to go to United States?
Well, I just figured that most of the time it seems like that's usually where people try to go, but I've noticed there's actually quite a bit of immigration to Canada.
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason is people just try to apply for wherever they have a higher chance of being accepted. And to my knowledge, USA has always been pretty difficult
Hmm.
to enter, or maybe that's just how we think. The process in Canada is much easier. Like if you get a PR, like a permanent resident, then after 360 days or something, 1,000 days of living here, you will become a citizen. Whereas I believe America takes a lot longer to turn
Hmm.
you into a citizen, but that's probably why.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not absolutely sure, but I'm sure that you're probably right though, because that's a big, long-standing issue that's happened here for a long time. So you said you hit all the points. So I would assume it's probably not very easy for a lot of people to leave the country. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. I have friends who've tried many times. I have relatives who are still stuck back home. So, no, it's not easy. And we have a lot of people, a
Mm,
large population. And that's one of the things that I keep saying, like, we can't have everybody immigrate here. It's just not possible. So, what are we going to do about all the people who are left there?
exactly.
Yes.
And abandoning your homeland isn't really the most viable option, I don't think.
Absolutely not. I have friends and family messaging me these days that telling me that they're scared or everything's just so dark, and I am at a loss of words on how to cheer them up, but it's only faith in the light
Hmm.
that gets us through it. Because we are coming from an ancient heritage of respecting the light. It's pretty difficult.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it because when I talk to people that are in Iran, it's like, you want to say anything or something that could help them or something that could encourage them, but you don't. There's not really too much that you could say. I mean, except like hold on and keep going, but they already know to do that anyways. That's the only option there really is. You have to continue to go forward. But, you know, and you don't, it's just you're kind of at a loss for words. But I could only imagine, though, having friends and family inside the country, that's probably a lot harder.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm used to this now because if you've paid attention, like to the news, every few years we have had an uprising and we've had people being murdered, executed. The executions have been going on for 50 years.
Hmm.
That whole darkness has always been there, even when I was living there. Now it's just, for me at least, and other sort of mini leaders I see everywhere, is about becoming creative and coming up with an actual solution to make this change happen, because the more we drag this, it's just going to have more lives lost and more casualties and more darkness again, and all the trauma and all the families being traumatized. So I don't have time for mourning anymore, you know,
Mm.
or we all don't. And that's what we're saying in these rallies that we go to, that this is not the time to be depressed and, you know, given to that darkness. We have to just keep fighting and showing up for all of those people who can't go out back home.
Yeah. I feel that very deeply because that's exactly what it is, right? Like you have to respect everybody that's made their sacrifices, but the best way to respect them is that you can't, because the Ayatollah really what they want to do is they want to put you in such a state of mourning and distraught that they want to try to break your spirit and you'll just give up and throw your hands up and say this is too difficult. And so that's not an option. But of course I would say they really underestimate the fire and the passion that's inside of the Iranian people and how serious it is that this will be the final battle and the final revolution, and the Ayatollah will be overthrown for good and be done away with. I do find that it's a very interesting thing. It's a very interesting dichotomy to see the Iranian people have to mourn inside of them, but at the same time so focused on absolutely overthrowing the revolution. You have to be very strong to come from that place. That's a very difficult place to come from. But yeah, but it is necessary though. I find the Iranian people to be very strong like that. Very, very surprisingly strong. You know, I don't know if most people are able to comprehend that kind of thing. What I love to see, I guess, what I'm saying is that although there's so much tragedy going on, what I love to see, what needs to be seen to make sure that it matters, is there has to be an understanding that you have to go forward anyways. And the Iranian people inside of them, inside of their spirit, inside of their knowing, they kind of already understand that. So that's the greatest thing that there could be in the midst of all of this. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I see it so much more clearly now that because we've had such a painful past. I mean, Iranians, they like to keep a good face, right, in their personal lives, but a lot of non-Iranians don't know what we've seen. Like, if you see me out in society in Canada, you're not going to believe the stories that I have to tell, because I've tried to keep myself looking successful and just keep up with everybody else. But the truth is, I've seen so many horrors since I was born, because I'm 33 years old, that regime is 50 years old. So
Mhm.
when I was born in the midst of the dictatorship, the murders, there were chain murders, there were executions publicly in the streets. And yeah, it really makes you strong. It's heartbreaking, but it really makes you strong. And now I'm paying attention to how Iranians are reacting towards the media or the politicians saying this or that. Because we've seen so many lies and propagandas in Iran, because the national TV in Iran is full-time propaganda. So much that it's comedy for us.
Yeah.
We make jokes about it. We never believe a thing that they say. So we're very skeptical towards any kind of news that's out there. And then when I try to explain this to non-Iranians, I see that they're so naive, you know?
Mm.
They believe everything that anyone says or anything that it's shown in a movie or a trend. And now I feel proud of this diaspora community that's like trying to awaken everyone. And a lot of the times we're misunderstood as hell. Like we're
Mhm.
attacked so many times. But I've seen something that they haven't. I can't expect them to understand it the way that I do. I can only come from a place of sharing my truth and just keep doing it until somebody has some passion and understands it. And when I see people like you, I really, it's very heartwarming. I really appreciate the time to just pause and listen and, just think for yourself based on your own values, how you judge the situation. And I've already told you that we really appreciate it. It goes a long way.
Yeah. And the thing too is like you talk about how Iranians are pretty immune to propaganda and psyops. And I would say that that's absolutely true. And because they've grown up with it, like that's all they've ever seen. They know what it is to hear one thing on a TV station and to see a completely totally different reality in real life. I think not only will this revolution free the Iranian people, but on top of that, there's a lot that those people and that country have to offer the rest of the world, especially the West, because the West has gotten to a point where a lot of people are totally propagandized. They will believe, like you said, they will believe anything that they hear, they see, they're naive. And that comes maybe from growing up in a first world country. It could also come from maybe not necessarily just being in a first world country, but allowing the comfort of that to stop you from being educated or understanding or being informed about what's going on in the world. But that's why I think it's so important for people to hear what the people are saying, because that sheds a light into the country and the regime itself and into radical Islam as a whole throughout the world. Like it's not just some kind of USA, CIA, Zionist, Mossad, anti-Muslim propaganda that's just trying to promote this narrative. There is a real threat to Islamic theocracy over a region, and it is as bad as it's said to have been. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Since I came here in 2018, I've been active since I landed here. So I've tried everything to just inform the world about what's happening. There's always been people being executed, and we went out. In the beginning, we were like 10 people. Now it's a whole young street in Toronto filled with hundreds of thousands of people. And because of these political trends that happened across the world and especially in Northern America, my message kept getting shut down. Like everybody was like, no, you don't get to talk right now. It's Black Lives Matter now. It's like COVID now. And every year I was labeled something and I was shut down and pro-Palestine. It's like, no, everyone's dying in Palestine. And I'm telling them, my country is funding that conflict. Do you want to listen to my story? We're
Mm.
part of it. They don't. They just want the short little slogan, the short answer, the easy way because some celebrity did it. And it's exhausting,
Mm.
It's painful
Yeah.
because we're in our schools. They draw these little flags of Israel and America on the ground. It's systematic, right?
Mhm.
They want us to step over it and say death to America, death to Israel. And we never understand why are we hating them so much.
Mhm.
And the beauty is that children, because of their own innocence, they understand the propaganda and they see through it. And I remember that we refused to step on it. We would like leap over it. Even though we're forced to like line up and whatever,
Yeah.
and we wouldn't chant what they want. It's like this little rebellion that we always had. But at the end of the day, you get arrested if you're too loud, right?
Mm.
You get expelled, or yeah, you get thrown out of the school, or they make this really horrible, untruthful case for you, basically. So everything is constantly shut down. Like, going back to what I was saying, just these trends, these political trends that kept shutting people like me up and telling me that you don't get to talk because you're not this, you're not that. And I've even been accused of the word white passing myself. I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah.
But I was like, I didn't know that you guys see us like that. Because in Iran, we're all colors and,
Yeah.
all kinds.
White
I don't know.
passing, whatever that means. Yeah. How you could pass for being white when you're not white, I don't know. I'll never understand it. That's just the crazy stuff that they come up with, man. I don't, it's insanity. It really is. Like, so like you were saying, you feel like you guys never got the chance to have anybody hear your voice because they would overthrow it with other quote unquote like social justice movements, right?
Exactly.
But yet the people inside of Iran are the most oppressed people in the entire world. Like, there's very few people, maybe aside from like North Korea or certain people in China, there's very few people who understand the type of oppression that is being faced inside of Iran. So it's insane to me that if you talk about social justice groups and social justice warriors and you want to set all these people free and whatever, but you're ignoring the biggest, most oppressed group of people in the world. How is that? How is that even possible? Is that you think that's because of indoctrination, or is that because they're trying to, well, whatever? Why do you think that is?
I think the Islamist mafia has lobbied so hard throughout so many decades. It's really hard to undo the brainwashing. And I also believe that they do have a cyber army.
Mm-hmm.
These fake profiles, just pay attention to these comments. Why don't they
Absolutely.
show their face? Why don't they have a real name? I have a blue check mark. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
me. I stand for my truth and I'm not afraid of anybody. But you go on TikTok comments and there's a girl who made a video about Iran and how she's being oppressed, and everyone's denying it in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying that she's lying about all of these murders,
Mm-hmm.
all of the oppression. So imagine living that horrible life and the whole world is like laughing at you
Yeah.
and saying, hey, you're just lying. Stop playing victim.
Yeah.
Stop playing victim. And I think that these are not as many as we think they are. They're just a lot of profiles that are being paid to do this.
Mm-hmm.
We know as the fact that Iran has a cyber army. I don't know about like all of the other regions in the Middle East, but I see a lot of Pakistanis in the comments coming for me.
Mm-hmm.
Afghanis. It's like, why are you guys even interfering? This is about Iran, and you
Mm-hmm.
guys are defending the Islamic regime in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Something is fishy there, right? So I just think that these people are loud. They have no personal values, so they will just lie. They will bend the truth. They will bully you. They'll make fun of your gender, whatever that they can put their finger on to bring the attention back to what they want to
Mm-hmm.
have standing out. But we're not going to do that, because the reason why we rebelled was because we had some personal values, right? I'm not going to go bully somebody, make fun of their face or whatever, just to shut down their message and oppose their ideologies. It's an unfair game. It's not even a game anymore. It's an unfair cyber war, I would say.
Yeah, it's very insane. It's very crazy. And like you said, a cyber army, that's exactly what it is. They have a cyber army, and other Islamic regimes have cyber armies, but also communistic regimes have cyber armies. I believe the UN and a lot of globalized ideas have cyber armies. That's exactly what it is because, like you said, I never see any profile pictures. I never see any real names. They're just random accounts. And they come out of nowhere, and they come like viciously, especially on TikTok. Like, I've seen it on other accounts as well, but on TikTok, it's like almost crazy. They'll, at least on every other platform, there will be a percentage of real people who say, that's what it is, free Iran, the people have to be freed. But on TikTok, it's like 1% might say that, and 99% Zionist propaganda, CIA propaganda, free Palestine. I'm like, what? There's no way. That's not organically, that can't be organically possible. And I know that I had even put up videos of um, certain videos of inside the country, and there'll be other videos that'll get hundreds of views, and these videos will get like no views in days. Like, there's no way that's possible. You're purposefully nerfing that type of content. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. I really can't say if it's the social media platforms like that are in on this, or it's just that that mafia has just a lot of people working overtime and getting paid, you know? But I have thought about this, and I think the solution in the future will be that social media needs to be like you have one account, it has to be verified, it has to be your real name, your picture. That might be the solution to the future because we can't have people hiding and misleading everybody.
Mm-hmm.
At least if I say something, I'm gonna have to stand for it. If I change my mind
Yeah.
later, I'll have to come and apologize for it, not just go make another random account. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's absolutely zero accountability there. And also, I know what you're saying. Whether you think that it's the social media accounts themselves, the platforms, or if they just have like these cyber armies that are getting paid for, or if it's like some sort of AI generating 1,000 bots at once and just throws them in comment sections everywhere. And I've heard people say stuff like that, and I could definitely see that for sure. If you just use, or like a hacker has one phone, but it's linked up to 500 accounts and they all randomly say the same thing at the same time. I could definitely see that. And that is a form of propaganda but it's even a scarier form of propaganda because, like the TV, like traditional media, most people are like, I don't really know if I believe that or if I believe this. But with social media, it gives off the illusion that there's this underground voice that says something totally different to what's actually going on. Yeah.
And I think one of the greatest things that's happened recently is that our voices are uniting. Like Iranians are collaborating with the Jews and Christians, and as a collective, we're getting louder too. We used to be completely invisible to the public,
Mhm.
but now you see some comment sections, there's support, there's real people who are testifying, right?
Mhm.
Saying, hey, I'm an Iranian. Like, I'm definitely active in the comment sections because I think it matters. I'm an Iranian. I agree with this point. This guy's onto something. Thank you for being our voice. It matters. That's the way I can think of to clean this whole mess up.
Yeah, you have to make sure that you're louder. And that's another thing too, like with the Iranian people, it's a revolution for the country. It's a revolution for the people against the Islamic regime. But it really feels like, on a deeper level than that, it feels like it's a worldwide revolution. It feels like now is the time in the whole world for freedom. Like, you see what happened with Venezuela and the Venezuelan people. They felt very ignored. Now they're feeling like they finally are seen. There's people throughout other places and throughout the world, in Taiwan and North Korea and various other places, in Cuba and Iran, especially with the Islamic regime. And it feels like it's a revolution of freedom. And it feels like the Iranian people really are almost like a battering ram into that oppressive world. Like, people talk about how there was the Berlin Wall and the Iron Curtain, but there's also like an Islamic curtain. And it feels like the Iranian people are a battering ram that's really smacking up against the doorway of radical Islamic theocracy. You feel like that's true?
Oh, yeah, definitely. As we're saying these days, it's not Islamophobia, it's Islamotrauma. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, how much else do I need to share about my horrible experiences for people to understand that this is the rule of Sharia law and I'm considered a second gender
Mm-hmm.
and there's absolutely no rights for a woman. It's written. So, and there's been like a interview lately of this ISIS member who's like, we're doing the actual Islam, everybody else is a hypocrite. He's just proving our point, and that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
The actual Islamic law is what they're doing. And what's crazy to me is why the leftist Western people who have seen the privilege of freedom, how much hatred for capitalism, for the president of the United States could you have to be okay with that ideology? Like at any expense, you just want to bring America to its knees. America is such a great example of democracy. Everybody wants to go to America. And they all do. That's the funny thing. They all go to America. They use all of these privileges. They make themselves famous in different kinds of industries.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to us, it's like, no, you guys are Islamophobic. I'm actually telling my life story, and you're just like analyzing it,
Yeah.
putting a label.
Isn't that crazy? That's what I think is the craziest thing to me, is that that's why I like talk to so many Iranian people so much, and I want to hear what they have to say, because I'm trying to explain to these people, like, these are people's life stories. Like, these are real people, as you can see. They were born and they've lived an entire life through childhood. They're in adulthood. They've lived the whole life out here, and there's millions of them. Like, how can you stare at something like that and still say, well, you know, it's bots, or it's Zionist propaganda, or whatever it is? And like you were saying, the leftists in the West, yeah, how could you be okay with this ideology to the point where, I mean, you hate capitalism so much that you're willing to accept the Ayatollah as a replacement for that? Like, is that an indoctrinated love for Islamic theocracy and communism that was propagated by propaganda from those people? Or is that indoctrinated hatred towards capitalism and democracy to where you don't care how bad it is, just as long as you get rid of it and replace it with something else?
Great question. My opinion, I don't see any love, because out of love, good things come, right?
Mm,
It's it's all about this like hatred, and you can't tell what their problem is. It's like, what do you hate so much? They're
mm,
willing to make fun of the guy's hair, his wife's accent, like anything. They
mm,
call Trump a racist, and then they make fun of his wife, right? It's all these contradictions. And then when you look at it, you're like, this doesn't feel sane, you know?
mhm,
It's just seems like you're just destructive. You just want to destroy everything. I don't know why, but it feels like a vibration of hate to me, because
mhm,
if you actually had some values, you loved those values, you tried to nurture them, you tried to nurture your own communities, at least we'd know what you stand for, who's your leader,
mm.
what is your example of an ideal society. We just don't know. They're just
Yeah.
here to destroy everything that anybody else builds because they
Mm.
hate it. They can't see it.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's exactly what it feels like, too. It doesn't feel like I can't see where you're coming from, in the sense of, this is what I want to build and create. And this is my beautiful community that I'm so protective over, and I want it to flourish. It feels like I just want to kill everything and anybody else. And it's not even that I want to build anything. I just want to make sure that you don't build anything. Like, well, that's so weird to me. That's a very weird thing.
Yeah, and that's why we need to keep going and become the leaders that we lacked in our own societies, you know? Even through this whole pro-Palestinian movement that they had, I kept saying, okay, if that's what you really feel, go there, go help them. Go try to figure out why they haven't been able to escape that. Ask the right questions, hold people accountable. Why haven't the Arabic countries that are neighboring like taken these people in? Like, these are the right questions to ask. If
Mhm.
anyone is a truth seeker, they're going to go follow up on that. But I haven't seen any actual activism other than just TikTok comments, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So I also wanted to ask you, because you said you've seen a lot of traumatic things. Is there anything at all that you would be comfortable expressing that you have seen or went through when you were in Iran?
So I myself, I'm a pretty smart girl. So I've been arrested a few times, but I was able to escape those situations. But I've heard a lot of stories from firsthand friends like that have happened to them, and I've witnessed things where I couldn't really do much, and that bothers me. It traumatized me. There's absolutely no women's rights, right? So a woman could be beaten up to death by their husbands or even by a policeman or whatever, and you can't do anything. You just basically powerless. There's no children's rights. There's beggars on the streets. But the most traumatic thing that I just cannot get off of my head is a woman who was raped by a taxi driver. And she goes to the police station and they tell her, oh, you actually have had sex with this man without marriage. That means you are this sinner. There's like a word for it. And they start lashing that woman. They give her 28 lashes for having sex before marriage. And this is a victim of a rape situation. And, we were all in a group therapy session when this came out. And it is true. It's happened to many other women. Basically, the police is not safe. That's why I never counted on the police anyways, because the police is the one who rapes you. The police is the one who will beat you up until you confess something that you haven't done. And this is really dark. And this is what I think that the privileged people, they don't understand what it is to see a policeman and be scared for your life, Anything could happen. If they don't like my face, they're gonna arrest me. It's literally as simple as that. I've been arrested for by the morality police, and I had the full hijab because I was going to work. And it's just like they tell us that we just have to fill this van today, so it doesn't really matter the extent of your hijab, so just get in,
Really?
There's absolutely no sense of safety. And I just remember the day that I stepped in Canada and I couldn't believe that sense of safety. I was like, is that all over? What?
Yeah.
For a whole year, it felt weird to me. And I
Mm.
never went back to Iran because I don't want to feel like that ever again. But when you don't have laws, when you don't have actual enforcement of children's rights, do you know what could happen to children? There was this girl, what was her name? I'll search it up for you. She was beheaded by her father just like 4 or 5 years ago because she had a boyfriend. And because the father has rights to his daughter, he wasn't even considered a criminal because he was the one who was giving consent about the murder of his
Yeah,
own child.
that's crazy.
It's so twisted. And do you know how much fear that instills in the women who are watching this news? Just makes them powerless, like shuts them up, and hey, you don't get to talk, you don't get to have a life here. Same thing is going on in Afghanistan. To be honest with you, my work doesn't finish with Iran. Afghani women are going through a lot of darkness too. And now I see on TikTok that some Afghani women are coming out. And because I understand Farsi and we both speak Farsi, I can see this movement. They're like getting braver and they're asking Afghani women, why did you never stand up for us? Why didn't you back us up when they stopped going to school 4 years ago, right? Taliban said that women can't go above 6th grade, which is
Yeah.
like so wrong in today's world.
Yeah, that's awesome though, that you said that they're starting to feel that way in Afghanistan as well. I agree with that too, that it goes far beyond Iran. Iran is the big giant threshold that will knock down a huge Islamic wall, radical Islamic wall inside the Middle East. But I believe the same, that that is going to open up a door for so many other people in so many other countries that are under the same type of oppression. And like you said, women have no rights in Islam. That is absolutely true. That is 100% true. So I don't understand why feminists don't, westernized far left feminists, why they don't have anything to say about that kind of oppression in.
It's mind-blowing. I think there's two groups of leftists. This is my thesis. Maybe you can give me your opinion on it. But one of them knows everything, is at the top, the elitists. They're fooling everybody. They're funding the media. They have their own agenda, which is basically to mess everything up and have fun and experiment with our lives. And then there's the followers who like to seem really as good people. They want to be accepting, and they unfortunately lack the education and the life experience to understand that there's actually evil in life and in the world. If it's not right in your face, it's probably happening somewhere else. Somebody else has to face it and fight it. That they don't go deep into these subjects. Like, in what other country is it okay for women to not be able to go to school?
Mhm.
Nowhere else. But who's talking about it? The day the United States left America, they were all like, oh, yes, finally, we stopped intervening. And all of those Afghani women
Mm,
were crying. So they're not looking at the results of actions. They just want these fancy news head
mm,
titles that makes them look like good people, right?
mhm,
So we left America. But yeah, it's already been messed up, and now the power's in the hands of Taliban.
mhm.
So do you want to actually help, or you just want to make some like fancy announcement at your Grammy show?
Yeah, yeah, for real. That's exactly what it is. And I agree with that too. I think that there are the elitist leftists that are in control of everything and they're puppeteering everything. And then there's a whole lot of people that are just normal everyday people that are on the left. But unfortunately, they have absolutely no idea what's going on in the world at all. And I don't, and really, well, interestingly enough, I do understand where they're coming from because I used to be on the left wing. Like, I used to be a Democrat, and I very much was the same way. Very empathetic, cared a lot about people, and as a result, had a certain way of looking at the world, but didn't realize that there were people on the left wing, elitist top people, that were taking advantage of that type of empathy and would totally skew lines and headlines and narratives on purpose so that if the reality that you were seeing that they perpetuate was true, then you would be right to be on that side of the opinion of it. But the problem is that it's not true. And then when I realized that, as so many people do, that's when now you're over here and they call you a right wing fascist and you've always been one and blah 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 blah. But I mean, it's really crazy. So one of the things that I also think about the revolution is that it feels like it's exposing a lot of hypocrisy in the world. A lot of human rights hypocrisy, women's rights hypocrisy, civil rights hypocrisy, free Palestine hypocrisy, anti Zionistic hypocrisy, anti Western hypocrisy. It seems like all of that, all of these things, there's this big giant like veil that's being ripped apart and is saying, well, here's what's really going on in the world. So let's see when the chips are down and the rubber meets the road, who exactly is who and who cares about what and who's fighting for exactly what. It's a very interesting dynamic. Do you feel like that's true?
Yeah, definitely. I am so hopeful about what is happening because this has been going on forever and now we're just seeing it. And now we all have a voice. I have my social media platform, you too, and like this past 10 years, we've been able to have our own individual accounts on Instagram, etc. So now we're just starting to talk about it. And
Mm,
as we talk about it, obviously there's going to be so much clash and so much tension. Like, we're not feeling okay these days, having to deal with all these comments, people misunderstanding us. But I believe that through all of these challenges, we're teaching people about ourselves and we are learning from other people how we can solve this situation, right? So, as you said, the veil has dropped and I mean, there's more exposing to do in my opinion. We're still in the midst of it, but we're not backing down as Iranians. Like, we have nothing else to lose. And honestly, when we talk amongst ourselves, what else are we gonna do in our lives? What else is there to like become successful in our careers or whatever. No, this is what we're here to do, is to expose this and be as loud as possible. But Iranians haven't had the language, like the language barrier has always been there, but our newer generations are coming in, and there's the conversation has started, you know? And if anyone is a truth seeker, which I do believe a lot of the people on the left side, they're just misinformed. If they have some personal value and they can put two and two together, eventually we're going to see the truth come out. It's not going to be hidden. And there's been many instances that we're seeing changes happen in the world. In Europe, I've seen some footage. In Germany, here in Canada, the politicians are starting to hear us out. This was never done before, you know? Even if a year ago at this time, nobody dared to say anything about Israel, right? Like,
Mm.
or the fear is, we're kind of like, we shattered that wall of fear. Like, nobody was allowed to say anything about Palestinians. Nobody was allowed to side with Israel. But now we're like proudly taking Israeli flags into our rallies. And we're great friends with our Israeli brothers and sisters, Jewish friends, whereas the whole world was bullying them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're definitely pioneering something. And I think the truth wins at the end. So I'm not afraid.
Yeah, I believe that's true. The truth definitely wins at the end, which is the awesome part about it. That's why everybody gets excited about it, because you know in the end it's all going to be what's right is going to come out and it's going to be victorious over everything that's wrong. So you said that the world was bullying the Jews and Israel. Yeah, I agree with that. And do you think that one of the reasons why so many people are not paying attention to the revolution right now is because there is a form of these people have Israeli flags, and these people are saying that they like America, they like Israel, they like Jews, and as a result of that, that will crush a lot of our narratives for what we've been trying to do inside of the Middle East. Do you think that has something to do with it?
Absolutely. It's the main reason why we're being silenced. But not just because we carry the flags, but also because those elitists that we just talked about,
Mm-hmm.
they are feeding into the propaganda that these rioters in Iran, they're Mossad agents, or like they're being directed by Israel, which is absolutely not true. We just love our Israeli brothers and sisters and we sympathize with them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But we never got any leadership from them. I mean, we would have loved to get any kind of international support, but we haven't. And because at the end of the day, Iran was this country that stood out for standing up to America, right? These people, they think that if Iran crashes down, the Iranian regime is overthrown, then that means the USA won another battle, right? So at the expense of keeping this fairly strong enemy of the United States, out of that hatred, which we don't know where it comes from, they are willing to shut down and not see all of these innocent lives, all of these people as if they just don't matter, you know? So they would bend the truth and they would lie about the situation. First, I've heard some people saying, oh, people are upset about the dollar value. It's not just that.
Mm-hmm.
It's much deeper. It's not just about economy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, way deeper. And I hear that too, where all of a sudden it's become a inflation battle and the people are upset about the economy, which really was only maybe like the first 5 minutes of the entire thing. And then it turned into, we want to get rid of the Islamic regime because we've always wanted to get rid of it. This is not a new thing. This is a thing that's been inside of the people forever. I mean, if you were in the middle of this place and you were watching women get stoned to death for being raped because they tempted the person that raped them, and you were getting beheaded if you were not a radical jihadist, like, you would want to be overthrowing the regime too. There's no sane person on the face of the planet that wouldn't want to be doing it. So that's a whole nother propaganda that I see, where you try to watch some of these mainstream news networks and it says, well, they're upset about the inflation and the economy. I'm like, are you guys delusional, man? Like, you really believe that that's the reason why they're doing what they're doing? Like, all that is just it's just a spark to remind you we really just got to take this whole thing down, man, because there's no other option. Yeah,
Yeah, who's willing to take a bullet for the dollar price?
exactly.
These people are so selfless.
Mm,
I bow down to all of these families and all of the young people who, at the age of 18, you were murdered for fighting for freedom. It's so valuable.
yeah, it's very, very sad. It's horrific. And these the people that have died so far, that have been martyred for freedom, they are, it's extremely selfless, because they're fighting for the generations of all the people that will ever come after them, and for the honor and respect for all the people that ever came before them that were a victim as a result of this ridiculously radical regime. And I have a tremendous respect for those people as well, which is why I can't, when people try to talk about Iran, they try to make fun of this. I don't even go there, man. Like, I can't even have a conversation with it because it's too disrespectful. So, but I do like the fact, like I said, that the Iranian people understand that the best way to honor them is to keep pushing the front line. So, where do you feel like right now, where do you feel like the revolution is at right now?
I think we've progressed to a point where we've never gotten before. Like, we're so close. And because this time Reza Pahlavi has taken full leadership and he went full force. It's been a few months before these uprisings that he has created the infrastructure. He's been sending out a lot of communication. And now that this happened, he is ready for it. And a lot of us have counted on him because he's the only figure that can unite us. And he has the knowledge. He comes from a political family. And I know him to be a man of value and faith. Okay, I've followed him throughout the years. And obviously, he can't just go there. That's what people don't understand
He'd
because
be murdered right away.
Iran is brutal. Yeah, they would just kill him in the airplane. But we have to just be so creative in bringing the world together to make this happen. And I definitely believe that we can. Why not? Like, what else are we doing in
Mhm.
these bureaucratic processes? What else is more important than saving people's lives? So we just have to put pressure everywhere that our lives matter.
Yeah.
Everybody's lives matter, And I think if Pahlavi is backed up with different military, whether it's USA, I don't know if any other countries are going to back him up, but it seems like everyone's starting to talk about it. We can come up with a solution, a transition period. It's hard to imagine right now, but everything comes from imagining it first and then it will happen. And I know that every turning point in history might have seemed impossible, but we are a lot of population in the diaspora and with so many different types of expertise. And we're unstoppable, to be honest with you. Like, just like myself, we have devoted our lives to this path. One way or another, we're going to come up with a solution, even if no country backs us up. What?
Mhm.
We're going to give up? No, we're not going to give up. We're going to create our own little community and work on some strategy next, but hopefully it won't get to that point. And I see that the world is talking about this and everyone's condemning the Islamic regime. And if it's more action than talk, then we're going to see some changes in the next few months. I definitely believe that.
Yeah, I feel that way as well. I am under the firm belief that even if nobody decided to help, that the Iranian people would overrun the Ayatollah eventually and that they'll overturn the entire thing by themselves for sure. It's just, of course, you would much rather have the military intervention because it supersedes a whole lot of unnecessary destruction and loss of life and time, and you can just go ahead and be done with it. and take the world into a much better place, because the whole world benefits as a result of losing the Ayatollah. I don't think that there is one single place in the entire planet that will get worse as a result of the Ayatollah being gone. The only people that will be worse off are jihadists throughout the Middle East, terrorist organizations, and tyrannical leaders. Those are the only group of people that suffer from the Ayatollah not being there. So it's common sense to me. I don't understand why a lot of the people that claim to be free Palestine are so quiet on the subject. I think that it does show. I think, and I can understand that some people are indoctrinated, I think as an overall basis, but by the time this is all said and done, I think this revolution is really going to be a earmarker of where people's morals are, where people's moral compass actually is at. Do you feel like that's true?
For sure. I mean, we're watching the world, right? And it's right in front of our eyes. It's happening right there. But a lot of the population needs somebody else to decide for them whether this is wrong or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that really amazes me. It's
That's
like,
interesting, isn't it?
what if you were in that situation and you needed to take sides immediately? What are you going to do then? You know? So it just is a lack of character, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Weakness in character, and all we can do is to be a good example for the rest of the world. In different instances, like political instances, we see this happen over and over, right? And one thing I wanted to add about what you just said is the irony that the military intervention by other countries is actually going to minimize the casualties. Whereas in the news, then the media channels, they make it look like it's going to bring murders and more killings, whereas people are already being murdered. People have always been murdered. This is the main message that we want to get out there, is that we don't want military intervention because we're ruthless and we just don't care about anything and we want to dominate that region. No, we want to help those people. And that's what they're asking us to do, to be their voice, and they want that military intervention. On the walls of Iran's cities, people are writing in Farsi, bring help. Mr. Trump, do something. Like, this is what people are asking for. And I think this is what the media hides. And the most valuable thing is to communicate what they're saying to the world so that a light is shed on the truth.
Yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts about the fact that they had that celebration for the 1979 revolution, and then they said, quote unquote, that 35 million people showed up in the country to celebrate it. Like, and we found videos of them using old footage and footage from past years and people that are dead in the footage to prove that it's old footage. And what really flabbergasted me, as I'm sure it did like the whole world, was the fact that the Attorney General of the UN sent a letter to the president and said, "Congratulations on having such a big celebration." What do you think of that?
Insanity, don't you think? I mean, it's dark to this point that it's comedy. It happened a few years back that they awarded Iran for women's rights, Commission on Women's. They got an award for it. It's like the most misogynistic country in the world, beside Afghanistan as well, got an award for it. So that just shows you how rigged everything is. And these are just for show. Like, I don't know why we're not dismantling UN because of this one mistake. It's definitely not a mistake.
No.
You guys just took back the invitation because we were so loud about it. Otherwise, you would have continued. It's the veil is dropping, my friend.
Yeah.
What can I say?
That's what it is, because a lot of people, after they heard that, and then they invited them there to speak on the Human Rights Council, the 24th or 28th, whatever it was, and then gave them the vice chair position for human development, which is anti-violence and pro women's rights. And some people were saying it's so tone deaf of them. They just makes them look bad. And it's like, it's so much worse than that. That's not tone deaf. That's not out of touch. That is a complete endorsement of the most demonic, mass murdering, genocidal regimes on the face of the planet. That's what that is. And the UN, they're not stupid. They're not fools. They know the whole world's watching them. They know that they're the UN. They know anything that they say is going to make headlines. And they know that everyone's watching Iran. So why would you choose at this exact time, after you hear, not even before, but after you hear, maybe upward 100,000 people murdered, killing children, bullet payments, and raping people in prison and hanging doctors for helping the wounded and shooting children. You would wait after you heard that to make these big giant three ideas and blast them to the entire world. That is a complete endorsement of genocide. That's exactly what it is. And I am under the impression, I believe that the UN is like evil, like they're just wicked, they're just corrupt. It's not some kind of weird side of the tongue. It's that they agree with that, and it's almost like a bold statement. It almost feels like they're taunting or mocking the world, saying, "So what are you going to do about it?" So maybe we are this globalistic, communistic, Islamistic, new world order in a sense, but could you really do anything about it? It almost feels like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. We definitely felt like they were mocking us, but it wasn't at first. So Iran was trying to send out a message that you can't do shit, you know?
Hmm.
We're still gonna lobby and we're gonna buy people like we
Hmm.
always do. And the people in those positions, I don't know if in your life you've seen like at school or in at work, when there's a conflict and then people don't stand up for what's right and they're just afraid to side with anybody, and then somebody gets hurt in the middle. It's happened to me a few times
Hmm.
where it's like obvious that somebody's being bullied and you guys are being silent. So it's about weak characters again,
Hmm.
because a lot of these people in these positions, they just wanted the salary, unfortunately. And a lot of politicians are like that. Not all of them. I think a lot of other politicians have some personal values. They want to help the world, but a lot of them are there for the money, the easy job. And when they put something up to vote and nobody, what's the word, appeals? Is that
Hmm.
the word?
Yeah.
And then it's approved.
Yeah. There was no objection.
Yeah. It just shows you that a bunch of cowards are sitting in one room, signing papers, getting their money. And I don't even know what the UN does, honestly.
Mm.
Like, what has the UN
They
done?
don't do anything. They're a completely useless organization. They haven't done anything in years. They should be abolished. That's why I said abolish the UN. Like, they should not even exist anymore. They don't do anything. Like, they were created initially to stop another world war from happening and to protect Israel, literally in their mission statement, to protect the Jewish people from anti-Semitism. They've done the exact opposite of that. They now are the number one perpetuator of anti-Semitism, and now they violate all human rights throughout the whole world. And what just happened is, it's absolutely insane to me. Like, I mean, I've heard the stories before in the past of them doing that, but I thought maybe the idea that maybe they just think that people are stupid and they're not paying attention and they could get away with that. But when you see them do it when the whole world is watching and it's being told what's going on, like, that's a new level of like brash. Like, that was really brash. And I wonder if the Islamic regime, like you said, lobbying, I wonder it's possible maybe that there was some sort of talk between the two of them, almost to maybe break the spirits of the people in the revolution. Like, look, even the UN doesn't have your back. You really think anyone's coming to save you? The UN doesn't even have your back.
Yeah, Iran's regime is a pro in doing that. We've
Mm.
had lobbying groups in USA, in Canada. You've heard of NIAC, and there's a ICC here, Iranian-Canadian Council, which we've been trying to expose for so many years. I can send you some resources on that.
I
But
just heard about them
these
now.
yeah, so these people wear suits and ties. Women are hijabless and they wear the dresses and they go out there and try to apologize on behalf of the regime and say that it's just a domestic issue. It's because of the economy. People are this or that. And they just try to cover it up, cover it up. That's what they're getting paid to do directly. And in our opinion, those are the biggest traitors to the Iranian people, because every time that we wanted to show the atrocities that are happening, they try to cover it up with these interviews that they get in the big news channels that I never get to talk in,
Mhm.
and they just give a bunch of lies on behalf of the regime to just buy more time, to say, hey, we're working on it. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of progress happening. I don't know if you saw this recent Christian Amanpour clip coming out where a politician from Iran tells her that we are about to allow women to go to the football stadium as of this year,
Mm.
as if this is like a huge accomplishment.
Wow.
And Christian Amanpour is like, wow, that's progress. This is a British journalist
Mhm.
from BBC, I think. Don't quote me on that, but
Probably.
and we're like, what are you talking about? A woman who is married cannot exit the country without her husband's permission. Do you know how much abuse that creates? They get
Mm.
locked up, their children get taken away. A woman can be beaten up by her husband, basically, because it's all in the Islamic Sharia law. That's why we never get married anymore. But you need your father's permission if you're a woman to like go abroad. Your inheritance is half of a man's inheritance. As a witness in court, you need two women for every one man.
Mhm.
This is like so blunt, right?
Mm.
That you're half of a man.
Yeah.
So they never talk about this stuff. They just make it seem like we're getting better, and nothing's getting better. We've only been getting worse.
Mm.
Yeah, those are the real enemies of the Iranian people.
Yeah. I just started hearing about that group inside Canada. I forget what you said in it, like the ICC or something like that. I just started
Yeah.
hearing about them, yeah, from Goldie Gamari because she's in Canada. She talks about them a lot. Yeah, but the diaspora in Canada, man, they've really been going hard. Like she's got that petition signed, and now the foreign minister of Canada just said that they will not ever be diplomatic with them, the Iran ever again unless there's a regime change. So that's a powerful statement. What do you think about that?
I definitely appreciate Goldie's work so much. She's a powerhouse,
Mm.
and she's really giving us all so much strength and power to move forward and do things that we couldn't really think of. She's an ex-politician, so she's experienced in that. Iran never hasn't had an embassy here in Canada for many years now. And on paper, yeah, it's nice to say that we don't have any relations, but they do stuff behind the scenes. We see these commanders and like top leaders coming here with their families. They bring in huge amounts of money. Whereas if I have $10,000, more than $10,000, I have to report it, right? How are they bringing millions of dollars that they've stolen? Because there's one guy, Khavari, if you search him up, he stole the bank's money, the national bank's money, basically people's money, and he lives here now. So I know that they might still be able to keep their relationships behind the scenes. So that's not going to help us free Iran.
Mm.
We need full support of the diaspora's voice, and we are very clear about Reza Pahlavi being our representative. And we need countries to acknowledge that. This might not be the most diplomatic way, or it might have to cross over the bureaucracy, but this is what needs to happen in order for that result to
Mhm.
happen. You know what I mean? Because what's that going to do? Like, no more relationships with Iran yet. They don't care. They're still going to keep killing people. They never really had relationships with Canada, anyways.
Mm. So do
I don't know.
you feel like what is your take on um the regime in Canada? Are you a fan of them or no?
But right now, no,
Mm.
definitely not. Like Justin Trudeau messed everything up. Now Mark Carney is just continuing that, and they're just trying to be so politically correct and basically fancy words, I mean. And the Canadians, I guess they voted for that. So it's been tough. These
Yeah.
past few years in Canada has been really tough. But we do have a lot of conservatives on our side
Mm-hmm.
consistently. You know, when you see an MP show up for you year after year after year, it's heartwarming to see that they stand for something. But there's a lot of internal conflict here in Canada as well, like because the dynamic is changing all the time. There's a lot of immigrants that have been suddenly injected into the society, into the economy, and we're not all experienced as a nation to navigate through this. I haven't seen Carney talk about this much. Yeah, he did condemn it. He did condemn the killings and the murders, but at the end of the day, I don't see him standing up really for the people of Iran. I saw Doug Ford, a bunch of politicians have showed up in this recent rally, which was yesterday, and there's signs of hope. That's all I can say.
And the former son of the Shah, I have not heard anybody at all that I've talked to personally that has mentioned any other leader at all. And on social media, like in the comment section, when anybody ever talks, it's 90% him. And then the other 10%, 5% of them are just saying it's Zionist propaganda. And the other 5% throw out something about how they don't want America to influence politics and that he would be some sort of puppet or something. But the overwhelming majority, he's the only name that I've ever heard before. So I think it does need to be acknowledged that that's the only name that the Iranian people have ever talked about. I went and I looked because I'm a deep researcher, so I try my best to make sure that I hear all sides of the story. And I deep researched as many groups of people as I could find, and I could not find any serious people that disagreed with him being the transition leader for the country. I've heard, like little weird pockets of people like the MEK, but then everybody tells me the MEK, they're half communist, half Islamist, and they're like a cult or something like that. I haven't, I think it's really important that people acknowledge that that's who the people in the country chose, because people are going to try to twist and turn the narrative to if he does take over in Iran, they're going to say this was put here by Donald Trump and Bibi Netanyahu to try and manipulate the Middle East. But it needs to be known that it's been screamed from the rooftops by the people themselves. That's who they chose.
Yeah, and one of the reasons why I think the military intervention that Trump promised has been delayed is because I think we all need to get to that point where we're just like so desperate for the intervention so that the world doesn't blame America for making this change, and we say, hey, we wanted it. And that's what we're trying to say. That was my little sign yesterday, that we need military backup for Reza Pahlavi because he can't do it on his own. And the thing is, when they talk about internal reform in Iran, the last Shah of Iran was Pahlavi. So if we're gonna fix this from the inside out, we need Pahlavi to continue where we left off, because this Islamic mafia was never from Iran. They hijacked the revolution. This wasn't even Iranian lifestyle. It wasn't Iranian ideology, but our people were naive and they wanted better change, right? They wanted positive change. So they went out in the streets and these guys hijacked the country. They partnered with the communists and everybody else who was involved in the revolution, but then they started executing them as soon as they got into power. They got all the guns and the weapons and they started oppressing people. And people were so traumatized for years that they thought it'll get better. It's gonna get better. It just got worse. So if we're gonna do this internally, we need to pick it up where we left off, which was Pahlavi. And any country you look at 50, 60 years ago, they weren't perfect. Their laws weren't perfect. So why do we expect the Shah to have been perfect? But you look at his son now in 2026, this guy, his hands are clean. That's like the most important thing for us. He's not a murderer, never murdered anyone for his cause, which is a big cause, right? It's very important. He's educated. He is democratic. Just watch his interviews and his press conferences. And he's backed up by the former queen of Iran, right? His mom is alive, who I really deeply respect. She's done so many great things for women in Iran. I think it's so obvious that he is the only option. If there was anybody else who was as brave as him and wanted to take leadership, I would have listened to them as well. For example, we had some victims in the plane crash that happened. You remember that? The families of the victims. For a second, like for a few months, we thought that one of these guys is going to become a leader because he wants to avenge for his family, right? But they didn't. They were too traumatized, they were too tired, and they lacked the education. This guy has been trained since he was a little boy about politics. He is a military pilot. He knows what he's doing, you know? So that's why I see a lot of hope, and I just hope that it happens.
Yeah, that's true. His whole family is from a royal bloodline. He's not going to have any trouble understanding how to take over a country and lead it. And that also goes into why that's one of the unique things about the situation there is most countries, when they go into a revolution, they do not have anybody they have no certain path forward, and it creates power vacuums a lot of the time. But that's not present here. There's a very stable option to go. And like you said, they hijacked the revolution and they worked with the communists and all that. And that is so true, isn't it? And when I hear about the Shah, people talk about like some of the negative things they did. It's like, well, everybody does something that people don't like. That's just like you said, everybody's a human being. Like, you're never going to have a leader that doesn't have something where you're like, well, I wish they would have fine-tuned this a certain direction. But that's a lot different than having Adolf Hitler and the Ayatollah in power. That's a completely different thing. And when I look at the Shah, at least from what I know so far, my limited knowledge of Iranian history, it doesn't appear that he was a super oppressive guy either. When they say that he dissented against certain people, those mostly seem to be mullahs and communists, the very people that have proven why he would have not wanted them to be in power in the first place. So it makes perfect sense to me. I don't understand why there would be any other direction. I know they say the MEK is not as big as it used to be, but I've also heard that they're trying to make some kind of weird slip in there. And the thought has crossed my mind a couple times, and now I'm hearing other people say it too, where people need to watch for his protection because they might try to take him out. Do you ever think about that?
Oh yeah, I pray for that man every day.
Really?
That God protects him. I mean, like I said, if this doesn't work, we're gonna find another way. But Reza Pahlavi is a very important figure right now in the results of this revolution. He does have his daughters. I'm not sure if they're as trained or educated, but we need to protect this man. And that's why I'm at a phase where I'm collecting donations. He does have a portal where you can support his campaign, and because you have to put yourself in his shoes. It's like this stuff is expensive, and building a whole country is gonna be expensive. And when you put your faith in a leader, you gotta support him all the way. Um, and the funny thing is, the MEK, we make fun of them because they're just so persistent. Like, they're always around, but they've never been able to communicate themselves with us. They have this weird, as you said, like a cult. They wear the same uniforms. They have the full-on hijab, and then they have communist ideologies. It's funny to me that they think they can win the hearts of Iranians with full-on hijab. Like,
Yeah.
can't you see what we've been through?
Mhm.
And they're a little bit out of date, and I don't see them as a threat or even competition. It's like, okay, you guys can say whatever you want. But there's been a lot of missions that they've had where they assassinated people, or, they've had their hands bloody. So that's a no-no for us. You don't get to kill anybody for your ideology. Innocent people, I mean. after the revolution, they did a lot of operations here and there. I can't name them exactly right now, but we can definitely do another search on this. But what really is precious about Reza Pahlavi is that he is doing it the civilized way, and his communication is so strong, and you just go on his Instagram and you can see him answer every possible question that could come up to anybody's mind. He's not afraid to be questioned. And he is an Iranian, he wants Iran to be great again. He wants us to go back to our roots. And that matters to our people. We don't want another Muslim, even if it's a woman, to be our leader.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a big, that's what the nations of the world and people that dissent against military intervention have to understand as well. That it's not because they mention Iraq and they mention Syria and they mention so many things. All of those people were filled to the brim with Islam. The majority of the populations were always Muslim. And when you were getting rid of those regime people, you're getting rid of Saddam Hussein and all these people, the only people that were ever the option to back it up were also radical Islam jihadists. And it's always been that way every single time. And as a result of that, people say, well, like I heard Senator Rand Paul from the United States say, well, Trump should not do military intervention because if he bombs them, then the people inside the country are going to see an outside threat and they're going to join the regime to rebel against this outside threat. And I'm like, look, that is so asinine for you to even say that. It is so out of touch with the people in the country for you to say that, because this is not Iraq. It is not a 99% Muslim country that has a regime that they're a little bit upset with because of some money problems, and they want to replace it but they don't want to get rid of Islam, though. They want to bring another radical Islamic jihadist regime that maybe just does their trade routes a little bit differently. And if you attack, then they're going to say, well, it's time to kill the infidels. The people in Iran are majority not Muslim. And out of the 75,000 mosques, 50,000 of them have been shut down. One recent poll said that they're less than 20% Muslim. They have they come from various degrees of religions and beliefs and peoples. They don't even speak Arabic. They speak Farsi. They speak Persian. And so this is not some kind of, we want to get rid of this radical Islamic regime to replace it with another one. This is, we ourselves want to shut out radical Islam from being in charge of the country as much as the West would want to. That's what has to be understood, because when you understand that eliminates all that fear mongering of this is going to turn into ISIS takes over Iraq, the Taliban takes over Afghanistan. You know what I mean? And all these ideas from like what Rand Paul said, which I don't even know if he believes that or not, or if he's just really that out of touch with the people there. But people have to hear what the people are saying, because they've been deceived for so long into thinking that everybody inside of Iran is a super hardcore burqa wearing jihadi, Allah Akbar terrorist. Like that's what they've thought.
Yeah. I think they have to stop generalizing everything and saying, hey, look at what happened with Iraq, look at what happened with Syria, whatever, because every situation is unique.
Mm-hmm.
We're co-creating this life on Earth. If it's never happened before, we're going to make it happen. And when we start giving these examples and just dismissing the solution, it's unfair. Nothing about us is the same as Iraq or Syria. We have totally different background, infrastructure, and culture. And at the end of the day, do we want to eliminate ISIS, or we just want to leave Middle East as this little sewage where all the horrors are happening there? We take all the good ones out, bring them here, and we pretend like we're good people, and they're left with the ISIS. ISIS is right now in Iran. So how much worse can it get? They're bringing foreigners in to beat the people because they don't have enough forces. So we see these videos of people speaking Arabic, or they don't even look like Iranians, because we can tell if they're actually Iranian ethnicity or not. So they're training these people from other parts of the Middle East paying them, just like that cyber army that I just gave you an example of. And the worst is already happening. It can't get any worse than that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It really can't. I mean, this is pretty much rock bottom. It's the darkest of the dark. Like the only way forward is up. And so you talked about that cyber army, and they went after you when you said you went viral, right?
Yeah, I got a lot of comments. Yeah, they're always there. And they just want to make fun of you or undermine you or just trigger you sometimes just to
Mm.
get a rage bait. Something I realized that was pretty dark again was these profiles of these Islamic regime supporters who were openly gay on Instagram. Now, I am okay like with anybody having any type of relationship, right? But when you're an Islamic Republic supporter and you are openly gay while gays are being executed in Iran, and it just shows me that you hate women to the extent that you only use them for reproduction and you would rather also make love to a man, you know? So I went through a lot of dark days these past few weeks and I was like, how could you want that kind of freedom for yourself, but oppress a whole nation? It just seems so unfair. You know, they get whatever they want in their lives and have zero sympathy for the rest of us. It just,
Yeah, and that's a good point too. That's what the far left has become. The far left has become, we get everything that we want in life. We get everything. We have the permission and the permissible, and we make it legal to do anything that we personally want. But everybody else could even dreams about something that they want to happen, and we crush it and stomp it out. Like that's exactly what it feels like. It's really strange, really. And especially like LGBTQ supporting the Islamic regime in Iran. Do you even know what they do to homosexual people inside of Iran? They throw them off a cliff. They're the most anti-homosexual group on the entire planet. I don't think that there's anybody that persecutes homosexuality more than radical Islam. Like I don't understand. Is that what is that? Is that's an education issue? They don't know that they do that?
I think so. Yeah. They just don't believe it. They don't believe how messed up other countries could be. I was talking to someone a few months ago and he was defending the Iranian regime saying, you know, I was thinking they're people too. They probably have their own culture. And I was like, wait a second. Who are you talking about? Like the people of Iran or the Islamic government, the Iranian government? Because it's two totally different things. Yeah, Iranian people, they're so sweet and welcoming and hospitable, generous. You talking about the Iranian government? They're not the same. You, as an American, have absolutely no rights as a human there. So even in the airport, they could just grab you, take you to a dungeon, and we'll never hear about you ever again. Now, the Americans have fallen off the other side so much that I hear people saying, hey, why can't we have a Muslim mayor, etc.? Why can't they become president here? And I'm like, wait, you guys can't even walk in our country yet. You want an immigrant to become president? Like, why is it not reciprocal yet? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly that.
So it's my job to say it as an Iranian that we're not there yet as the whole earth.
Hmm.
We need to take everything step by step. You guys are taking all of these immigrants. What are those nations doing? Are they taking yours? No, you've always had Iran on the travel ban list, right? Your government says don't go there because we can't protect you if you go there. How many Canadian citizens have been detained in Iran, marked as a spy, tortured, and just many years of their lives were wasted away? I think we need to start taking this seriously and say, hey, we come one step closer to you. Now it's your turn to come closer to us. And if we did that from the start, we would be in a much better place today. But unfortunately, just because of those agendas and collecting people's votes and giving some fancy promise, they've tried to people please all of these immigrants. And now the immigrants are even ungrateful for the lives that they're living in the West, in these first world countries, to the extent that they're becoming violent or saying death to America, death to Canada. And we're like, what are you talking about? Why are you here in the first place?
And like you were saying, they want Muslim mayor, like in New York City. Like I was just watching this video literally today from Dearborn, Michigan, and they have a Muslim mayor there. And there was a guy that went there, a normal everyday citizen, and he goes inside of their city council meeting and he says to him, they wanted to name, they're changing the name of a road there to, I forget what it is. It's Osama something or other. I forget the last name, like Soleimani or something. And that guy is known to have backed up Hezbollah and Hamas. He's known to be a supporter of them. And this guy asks him, and I actually got the video, I'm going to put that on social media later, where he talks to him and he says, this is why I'm rebelling against this. And the mayor looks at him, Muslim mayor, and says in front of everybody, you are a racist, you are an Islamophobic, and this city will have a celebration in the street the day that I get to see you move out of this city and never come back. And I'm like, how could you say that? In the United States of America, in an American city. He just said that to an American citizen because he wants to name the street after someone who supports Hezbollah and Hamas, and he was against it. I mean, that's like something you would see inside of Islamic Iranian regime. Like that's what it looks like. Like that is insane to me. And that's the United States. I mean, because it's only progressing. It's only getting worse. We knew that there were Muslim candidates that were taking over. And regardless of what anyone says, the truth behind these Muslim candidates is that they're completely paid for by the Muslim Brotherhood. They're completely funded by radical terrorist organizations to infiltrate. You listen to the Muslim Brotherhood, they say it's by bullet or by ballot. And they have an entire blueprint of their agenda, which you can find online, where you can read it. And it says, this is what we do. We go in and we circumnavigate, we indoctrinate the people through the education system, and we get them to vote. And once we get into power, we start to do this, we start to do this. They have a whole plan, a 100-year plan to take out the West. And they say outspokenly, we love this mayor in New York City because this mayor is what we need to promote jihad. And we used to say that voting was haram, but now we say it's our jihad because this is how you take over everything. And they're saying all this outspokenly to people's faces. Then, even though you got that problem, you still have this people in America and in the West and these leftists that say, well, you're looking at the radical version of Islam, and these people that got voted in, they are not like that. They are this calmed down version of Islam. But then you see Dearborn, Michigan, naming the street after someone who supports Hezbollah and Hamas, telling a citizen that he's a fool. And we're going to celebrate the day that you leave because I'm a Muslim mayor and you're an Islamophobic. And it proves that that's a lie. Not to mention the Muslim Brotherhood endorsing these exact names of these candidates by name to the whole world. And you see that in Islam, you have the right to lie about what you believe. You have the right to say, I love the transgenders, I love the Jews, I love the homosexuals, I love everybody, as long as in the end it can promote Islam, right? That's true, isn't it?
Yeah. It's called Takia, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so I don't know what will happen in a democratic country like USA or Canada if they have majority votes. Like, where is there any point where it can be stopped? But there was this interview in some part of Canada where this Muslim guy's like, yeah, you know what? We're making all the babies and you're not. So one day we're gonna outvote you and we're gonna bring Sharia law here. Now that guy was super naive to be saying that in front of a camera.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly how they think. That's the plan.
Mhm.
And I don't know where the Constitution is gonna stop them, but the American people, like I've seen in my followers, because I used to do music on my Instagram. It wasn't about politics. My musician friends, they were advocating for Mamdani. My American friends, the musicians, the rock and roll spirit. Like,
Yeah,
what?
for sure.
And if you think that they're not the extremist Muslims and they're so moderate, my question is, why do these Muslims never stand up for what is right, which is right now in Iran, people
Mm.
are being massacred. If that was not true Islam, then you as the true Muslim should be standing up, defending the innocent people's lives. But what are we seeing? We're seeing Jews speak up. We're seeing Christians speak up.
Mhm.
Think Zoroastrians speak up. No Muslim is speaking up.
Mm.
So maybe this is actually true Islam.
Mm. Yeah, that's it right there. That's real. You said it all right there. That's a very good point right there. If this isn't the real Islam, how come no Muslims are speaking up? The whole Free Palestine movement is completely quiet. All of these people that are these Muslim politicians, like New York City, not one of them has come out and said, well, we should overthrow the Ayatollah and we should set the Iranian people free. They don't, it never happened. So, yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I mean, people just got to think about that for a minute, because if that's not the real Islam, you would be insulted by the fact that these people are giving you such a bad name all over the TV. They're the reason why people look at you and say, I'm not really sure if I would be comfortable having this person in office because I don't want that to happen. They should be your number one worst nightmare, your number one enemy in the world, because they do more to destroy Islam than any Christian or Jew or European or American or Westerner ever could. And they don't. So that's a really good point, because that's what it is. They're not moderates. They're completely bought and paid off. And so you said you're musician friends, right? Because you said you used to put a lot of music on there. And I saw you talking about Billie Eilish on there. So is that the video that you originally went viral off of?
Yeah, that's the most I've been viral. So yeah, that attracted a lot of views, comments, etc.
Yeah. And I thought it was really interesting what you had to say about that situation, and that you were inside Iran and you felt like it wasn't fair the way that everything was perpetuated, right? Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, like I said it in the video, I was just another kid with a lot of dreams, a lot of passion. I had a lot of life in me, always, still do. But then I realized it's not a fair world, and my hard work is not necessarily going to pay off just because I'm trying my best. There's a lot of other factors in people's success. And for me, it's been a personal battle to just accept that and not be resentful towards life and other people, and just take responsibility that I have to try harder and I have to earn my right to sing, because I wasn't even allowed to have a little show in Iran. Basically, I wanted to make a music video because everything was underground for me, right? Until the age of 25, I lived in Tehran, and I'm pretty rebellious, so everything was underground, in secret. I would go to like my vocal teacher's classes in private because I wanted to become a singer. And then when I wanted to make my first music video, nobody would rent a room to us. It was me and my other girlfriend, and everybody would be so afraid. They're like, "Two girls? No, we can't have that happen here." And all I wanted was just a room.
Mhm.
I didn't want a fancy stage, nothing. And so what we did was like we secretly rented a room as rehearsal for like some theater play, and we brought in the cameras and we secretly filmed a music video, which I can send to you because I'm so proud of this. And in the middle of the shoot, they opened the door and they're like, "What are you guys doing? You need to stop this right
Oh
now."
my goodness.
And and we did stop it. Like we wanted to have more footage, but with whatever we had at that time, we made it happen. And it was just like a symbol of rebellion in my life. And then I came here in Canada. I watched all these celebrities gain success from like age of 13.
Mhm.
I just got to Canada at 25, so I don't stand a chance competing with Billie Eilish. I don't have the money to make all that music. I don't even have that equipment. Now I have to go get a job. I have to like do things simultaneously. I don't have a grandma's basement to crash in, you know? Now I did all of that. I still made my music. I have like 6 songs out there so far. And then I hear this from Billie Eilish. It's like a stab in the heart. So not only do you not care, not only are you never going to speak up on the women's rights and the women's issues, you don't even have enough education to know what this little short sentence that you just said, what effect it has in the world. Because now you've got all of these young boys and girls watching your TikToks and they're like, oh, wow, Billie is so brave. Somebody said it. And I'm like, somebody said what? What are you guys even talking about? What does this sentence even mean to you? And honestly, there's been a million videos since she said that of people proving to her that she is contradictory. And I think it has also started great conversations on the internet, but it just goes to show that whoever has the platform has enormous power, and power comes with responsibility. I don't care how naive or innocent she might be. I don't know her that well. But when you're up there and you say something like that, it's going to have a domino effect in society. It's going to set us back so much in our rebellion to gain our women's rights back. Everything is connected. And a lot of people in the comments were saying, oh, what does this have to do with what she said? And maybe I have language barrier. I did my best. But everything has to do with everything, because you're actually feeding into the narrative that those elitists want us to believe without actually educating yourself, without ever having a real normal life experience, ever knowing what it is to not be able to pay your rent and still wanting to be a musician, not being able to put your voice out there. It's like illegal. I would be arrested and maybe even killed in Iran if I persist on singing. They can't even fathom it. You know, they can't imagine that. So it comes from a highly privileged position. And for me, it was a risk to put myself out there because I'm exposing all of my weaknesses and insecurities and my traumas for the whole world to see. But I've made up my mind like so well on this and what kind of change I want to make in the world that I was like, I'm willing to be that person who gets made fun of, because some people were saying, oh, you're just jealous because you weren't successful. And I'm willing to take that bullet at the price of sending this message out there. And the beauty of it, Josh, was that when this video went viral, the girls and the boys from Iran with their fake profiles, they said, thank you for being our voice. I felt that pain. I'm also really talented, but I felt like I'm suffocating all the time. And it really brought tears to my eyes to see that this was my truth, and all I needed to do was to say it, to just be brave enough to say it. And now I can see that it's resonating with all of these beautiful souls that feel like they're suffocating there. And yeah, it's not fancy, it's not aesthetic, it's not cute for the Hollywood glam life, but our life has never seen glam. We've never seen cute, you know? So maybe it's just fair for her to take some of the backlash now and sit and really think about what her values are. I wonder what she's going to do next.
Yeah, I think that you said that a lot of people commented back and said they feel the same way. Yeah, that's definitely true, because I think that is really hard for people outside of those kind of situations to really think about, because as hard as it is to become super famous or whatever it is around here, I mean, in a place like that where you're not even allowed to be creatively gifted without being in trouble for it. Like that is, that's insane. That's insane. And when you're saying like it's not glamorous or cute or aesthetic, but really that's the essence of art though in itself, isn't it? because like, you know, yeah, like Hollywood, and once upon a time, you know, I've never hated the culture. I've never been at war with the culture like a lot of people on the right wing are. A lot of people are anti-culture. I've always been very cultural. I like culture. I like music. I like movies. I like all these things. But the truth is that Hollywood was created off of the backbone of what you're talking about. What you're saying is the very beginning of all artistic culture. All artistic culture came from that place. And as a result of it having the ability to say its message to the world, it built a Hollywood and made it become pristine and cute and aesthetic. But all of that was built off of the real, true, authentic version of what people are actually saying and what they're actually going through. So for people not to understand that, those people, you know, you question whether they understand anything about art or creativity or any of that in the first place, because all of that, it comes from a raw emotional place. It's a message that you're trying to project
Yeah.
to the world. So, you know, that's really interesting that uh that you know, I just had this other guy too, and he's from he's inside the country and he makes music as well, and he was like showing me this album that he had made. So I definitely want to see some of that music that you created. I want to see the video and everything. And I think that that would be really interesting to hear and see, like the underground cultural motive of Iran and the Iranian people as well, because there's got to be a lot of underground culture and art there that the world has no idea about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, most of our life there is underground. That's why we're always afraid of being caught or yeah. So I can send you my music. But I totally agree with you. I'm so glad that you see that, because that's also been something I talk about on YouTube. Is art, like music, used to come from real life experiences, people who were experiencing pain, and they were basically, music became their therapy. That's how they coped with life. Now we're in such a weird time that all the rich babies, like the ones that have the most funds, become the superstars. So it's like you have to be promoted when you're 11 or like 12, come from some kind of Disney show. And even in the modeling industry, it's become like that. It's not so much about the talent. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm biased, but I can see it. And that's why the quality of music is like, it's so hard to relate to them anymore, because that's not my life. Like, I don't know what she's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I go back to the older music. I'm a little bit old school like that, but I think we all feel it, even in the movies. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no deep message there.
For
There's
sure.
nothing that moves your soul.
Yeah, I absolutely feel nothing when I watch movies nowadays. And I'm like a big movie guy. Like I love movies, I love stories, I love writing. And when I look at these like movies nowadays, I'm like, what is this? Like what even is this? Like it's the stupidest, most asinine things I've ever seen before in my life. Like you don't even know what to classify it as, because it's not even, yeah, there's the remakes and everything, but it's not even just that. It's like there's no real kind of anything that's actually being said about anything whatsoever. And
Yes.
I
Go ahead.
think that, yeah, you're 100% correct about people spreading the message from where they really come from. And you can feel it inside all of the culture. I think too that that actually puts creative in a very weird position in today's society. So what I mean by that is like always in the past, it seems to be that for whatever reason, usually creatives wind up on the left side of politics. And I think that's because a lot of creative people are very empathetic and they feel things and they feel people very deeply. And if you go back in the day, when the left wing had like John F. Kennedy, that was more of the empathetic place. So people would gravitate towards that. And the right wing has always been very anti cultural, not really big fans of culture. And now, today, the left wing is the creatives still go left wing, but it doesn't feel like it's for the same reasons anymore unless they're highly indoctrinated. It seems more like they've become elites and they're controlled propagandist narrative. But the right wing is still very anti-cultural and still like, what's the point? Why do you even need music? Why do you even need art? And I don't agree with that at all. So it's a weird place for a lot of creatives who are not indoctrinated. There's a real interesting space for those people that doesn't seem like it's being filled.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I think something new needs to be birthed, and that whole structure is decaying. Like, you watch the Grammys, they're giving each other this little statue back and forth, back and forth. It's like Lady Gaga got her ninth Grammy, so there's
Yeah.
nobody else on the surface of this planet that's got anything good, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just, when you look at it as a way to make money, and these people are behind huge contracts, and the system has become so big and complicated that art is literally just crushed under it. All of those artists aren't happy either. A lot of them are being pushed to generate certain types of music. They don't have freedom of expression the way that they want it. So I think that we are on the verge of a new earth. Every old structure needs to be dismantled. A new system will inevitably come, and artists who feel alienated and they don't have a place because of the power of internet, social media, we're gonna find another way. We're gonna create our own communities. And about the left and right thing, I truly think that, like, the shape of the that goes like this. I think that's how the world goes. Like, it's always gonna be like this and a little bit over on this side. And it's our job to look at the current situation and see, hey, whose side is getting too heavy. And I always tell my friends, I'm like, if I saw that the conservatives were overdoing it, or they were on the wrong side, I would step on the other side, no
Exactly.
doubt. But when we cling on to the identity, and we're at this egotistical battle with our older self, because, like, I can't contradict my older self. Whereas it's your job to be reborn every single day and reevaluate everything. That's when things get rough, and that's when friction happens. If we become nobody, it's like, I'm a nobody. I don't care if I'm cherished or whatever. Or if you give me that prize, then everything would be so much smoother, and we would be so far ahead in achieving world peace. That's what I think.
Yeah. And I think that you're right about that as well. And that seems to be the big thing for me. When people, like you said, the way that almost like a DNA strand where it's in and out and it's in and out. And I feel like exactly that. When you are looking at where you stand today, you have to measure it against where everybody is standing right now, not where they were 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 5, 10, 15 years ago. You have to measure it about what it means right now. And it's almost suicide to try to stay aligned with old ideological views just because they were your old ideological views. Like, you're becoming a slave to an old system that no longer works anymore. And, no, it's almost like they feel like they're identifying themselves with their value with that old system instead of realizing that, like, your values aren't changing is why you left the system changed, and that's why you're leaving it, because your values are the same. You know what I mean? You can't get attached to these labels and everything, because I understand that, because I was a Democrat. I grew up on the left wing. I was always traditionally left wing. I was always there. I supported Obama twice, which is crazy to think about now because I'm not a fan of Obama at all. And it was because I looked at the situation and I took a step back and I said, these people are becoming a bunch of communists. And then not only that, right after that, they're becoming a bunch of jihads. So we have jihadi communists. I can't support jihadi communists. What's insane about that? And then now you're a far right neo-Nazi, and 1 second, and then you're a Zionist the next second. So you're a Zionist Mossad Nazi, and it makes absolutely no sense at all whatsoever. But that's what it is, though. So it's really weird. It's a really weird political dynamic where it feels like all of that organization of right wing and left wing is all just kind of falling apart, and it's meshing into one thing. And there's going to have to be new organizations or new parties or new political spectrums of new things. Things have to be recreated, rebirth, like you said. There has to be new stuff created that appropriately challenges the way that things are dealt with now. And the past has to be put to past. I mean, it happens all the time. It's happened every couple of 100 years or so. Parties get retired and new parties show up, and that's just the way that it works. And like you said, with Lady Gaga winning her 9th Grammy, like, and nobody else on the earth deserves a Grammy. Yeah, exactly that. Because like nobody's saying, I think what like creatives and like what you're trying to say is, it's not that you're saying that these people that are winning awards or these elites of Hollywood are not talented or not gifted in themselves. It's that everybody else that's just as gifted automatically is dispersed because of they don't fit this check mark. They don't believe this political idea, or they don't fit this specific narrative. It's like if there's 100 super talented people, if 10 of them agree with us politically and 90 don't, that'll be the 10 that win every single time, right?
Yeah, definitely. And also, not everybody gets a chance, right? Because there's no doubt that the spotlight in the world is in America, right? In movies, in music, and everybody looks towards America. And so the people, I think, of the world are kind of hypnotized in the way that they think those are the best of the best. And I don't deny their talent. There definitely is some talent, but you bring in any artist and you give them a team of 10 songwriters, 10 producers, massive budget of marketing, it's gonna be a hit song, you know?
That's a good point, really.
So when I see people are fooled by it, including myself, maybe one day it was my dream to get to Hollywood. And I thought that's the only way for me to prove I'm successful. Now I'm questioning everything and I'm like, why do I think that I need to get there when they don't include us? And now it's so clear that they don't care about us.
Mm-hmm.
It's like their little party where, I'm all about having fun and I'm happy for them. But when you guys start getting political and you start to act so righteous as if you know better than the rest of the world, it's like, why am I trying to contribute to that system? So I'm going to go ahead and create my own system for people who have been left out all their lives, like myself. And this is what's important for us to do, really. Otherwise, Hollywood doesn't need another actress like me. Hollywood doesn't need another singer like me to water herself down and try to blend in with like their culture. I told you my life story, right? So my music's gonna be about my life experiences. It might be dark, it might not be dark, but we all have to just come to this empowered self where we know our own worth. So we're not so hypnotized by these shows that are played, like the halftime show where they all said it was amazing because it was politically correct, but the experience itself wasn't so amazing. It wasn't moving. It wasn't art, you know?
Yeah, that's true. There was nothing that was really said that was emotionally moving. Like, like obviously the point is that like, people go back and forth about the halftime show, and obviously the point is the reason why he was selected. And I understand the argument where people say, well, all of his music is in Spanish, so he can't help that he would have to speak Spanish. Okay. But even if you look at it from that perspective, the only reason that whoever is in charge of the halftime show chose him was because they were trying to make a political message. That's the only reason they chose him, regardless of whether or not he could, whatever. It doesn't matter. He was chosen because of that. There's a million people that could do the same. They were not chosen because it wasn't a political message. He was chosen only because it was political. And so Then you had the dual halftime shows coming from Turning Point USA and Kid Rock, and they got millions of views. And now you have these two dichotomies of people going back and forth about their ideas about both of these halftime shows. But what it really feels like is when, and I didn't really know who Bad Bunny was. I've never really listened to any of his music. I've heard that he's famous. That's about it. But when I looked at the lyrics, what really stood out to me when people were sharing the lyrics and what they meant, I was looking, I'm like, he's not. I mean, it's just normal bubblegum pop, and it's actually really vulgar lyrics. Like, it's not this huge emotional escapade that takes the human soul and leads it to revelations about itself. You know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah, so you feel like that. Do you feel like, on that subject as well, do you feel like they intentionally want music to become, and all art to become, less moving on purpose?
Oh, yeah. You know what I think? They're all about control, right? They love it when we do what they predicted we're gonna do. It's a game to them. And the irony of this halftime show is, some Latinos are like, we should be proud that a Latino has been chosen to do the halftime show. What I see through this is actually supremacy. It's like those elitists allowed a Latino to come up, and now you guys can claim your self-worth because we said so.
Mm.
It's like, did you lack the self-worth before Bad Bunny had a show? Did you think lesser of yourself?
Mm-hmm.
It's like such a deep question,
It
right?
really is.
Like the first black president. Did you guys think that black people were lesser than white people? Because we didn't think that.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're puppeteering, is that the word? These masses to tell them, hey, now we're at a point where Black Lives Matter.
Mm.
Now we're at a point where Latinos are included. It's like we all thought that we were one big family
Uh-huh.
before this. Did you guys not think that?
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like. It feels exactly like that. It's like, no, guys, you weren't as far ahead as you thought you were. The truth is that we determine when you guys get to a point where these groups are included, and you were all really brainwashed into thinking that you guys actually were not as divided and racist and bigoted as you guys thought you were. So let me go ahead and clear this up for you guys and make it look different than it was. I think the connection just got shut off, so I'll give it a few minutes and see if she comes back on. But it's going to shut off right there in the middle of a very deep section too. Isn't that interesting? Are you back?
I got disconnected for a few seconds
Yeah,
there.
that's what I was figuring happened. And of course, it would happen right there in the middle of saying all that too. But, anyways, like I was saying, though, it's like, it feels like they want you to believe that you guys really were not as united and connected as you were. And we are the ones that are writing this history or narrative of human beings and the world and the human race as a whole. And we decide when you guys have really figured out that you guys are come so far. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes, I'm glad you understand me on that.
Yeah. And that's really,
And so
it's really weird. It's really strange because what's the motive behind that? And like another thing too that I notice is like, let's say that Bad Bunny was a conservative and he was still a Latino and he was still from Puerto Rico and all of these things. Would you support him just the same? Is it like, is it really a Latino thing, or is it a Latino that agrees with this political ideology thing? Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Look
And
at what they're doing to Nicki Minaj now.
Mhm.
She's like completely getting thrown out of the industry. People are hating on her now. People who were fans just
Mhm.
because she's siding with somebody they don't like.
Mhm.
So where's the freedom in that?
Yeah, exactly. Where's the freedom in that? And when you listen to Nicki Minaj talk, when she talked after she initially said that, all I hear is like love. All I hear is like beauty. All I hear is all people are equal. We shouldn't be hating against this group or that group. We shouldn't be pro black or pro white or pro anything. We should just be people. Everyone gets treated how they are as people. That's what I hear when she talks. And to me, that's the whole point, isn't it? That's the whole message. That's the message that we have been taught, that the Democratic Party was always for it. That's the message that we heard with JFK. That's the message that we heard with Martin Luther King. That's the message that we were taught from the left wing and why we were Democrats and why we were left wing in the first place. And then that message feels like it's completely dissolved and went somewhere else. And now we're over here. And now all of a sudden we became the super bigoted people that were trying to hold that message back the entire time. And then when you get people like Nicki Minaj that are now over here as well with people like me, they saying the same thing, and now all of a sudden they're what? Nicki Minaj is what? She's a white supremacist, or she's a misogynistic sexist. She hates women. Like what is it? It doesn't make she hates immigrants. She's an immigrant. It doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think what she did was so precious at this time. It was such a huge help, right? To say, hey, I see through the BS and I'm gonna risk everything and stand for my truth. Obviously, in the TikTok comments, you're going to see people saying, oh, she got a paycheck. Is money really worth it? But we can see it. We can see the sincerity in the way she talks. It's a frequency you feel.
Yeah,
It just,
I was
I think,
really impressed by Nicki Minaj. I mean, I've always liked Nicki, really. I have always been a fan of Nicki, but I didn't know that Nicki had that level of there's like a greatness there, yeah. There's like a real in-depth greatness there. And when I heard her talking, I felt that, and I was like, this is really interesting. I did not see that happening. I remember when she talked about, like, she went against the narrative with like COVID a few years ago, and they had all jumped on her really hard. And then, so I always knew there was something there where she was not totally bought into the whole idea that was being promoted. But I didn't expect her to go as far as she has. And it's extremely courageous. Yeah, it's extremely brave,
yeah.
especially in today's society where, that's like social, political, cultural, career suicide if you do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. The brave ones I appreciate.
Yeah, true actual bravery too, not make believe bravery. Not, well, she gets paid a check. Well, actually, I would get paid a lot more money if I said that Donald Trump was a Nazi. I would get paid a lot more money, actually. I would win a Grammy and a Super Bowl halftime show if I said that Trump was a Nazi. Like,
Exactly.
exactly. So, what am I really getting out of this except the fact that I'm going to be called a Nazi now too? Like it's crazy. So, what was it specifically about Billie Eilish's statement that triggered you so much? Why because out of everything and so many celebrities and so many different celebrities, like, were you a fan of Billie before, or like, what is it that specifically Billie and specifically what she said at that time?
I wasn't necessarily like a Billie fan. I mean, I think she does have a great voice. Her brother is a great producer. I watched her documentary and it was mind-blowing the way she was raised. It's like her parents set her up for this success. She was homeschooled, they were a wealthy family, and she had her brother as a producer. And in their free time, because they had such a peaceful life, and I know this because I haven't had that peaceful life.
Mm.
When you're struggling, when you're not in safety, when you're tired from your full-time job that you hate, it's hard to stay creative and to keep producing.
Mm.
And she had it all set up in the most perfect way that maybe I wished I had. And when I saw this documentary, maybe it was like 3 years ago, I watched it. I said, wow, now it makes sense how she made such hit songs at the age of 13. Well, Billie is like an example of a dream come true for a teenager who wants to sing. And she was also protected by her parents, so she didn't end up being another Justin Bieber who's traumatized by the industry. She was protected, and now she's having fun and still expressing herself creatively. And for me, my battle in life has been to accept the fate that I had and the cards that I had been dealt, right? I think everyone goes through that. It's like, okay, my parents didn't support me in the path of making music because it was illegal and they didn't want me doing illegal things and they were worried about my safety. And I kept saying, hey, I need to be rebellious and open the path. But I had to do it all alone. I spent a whole lot of energy and just many years just doing this social activism, doing things underground where it could have just been as easy as signing up to the music school on a corner of a street in an American's life, you know? So I already knew all these facts, and that's what feeds my motive for my activism because there's still kids living like that in Iran, in everywhere, at least in the Middle East that I'm aware of. And then when she said no one's illegal on stolen land, it meant that all of this that we're doing right here, this fancy dresses, these $1 million homes, these parties, we don't really deserve none of it. So my question is, why don't you leave USA like tomorrow? You know where your ancestors are from. Just do a DNA test, probably like England, Ireland, wherever. Just pack up and go. No, you want it. You want the Hollywood lifestyle. You want the fancy parties because it's fun, it's easy, and you don't know what you're saying, you know? Because it's not too complicated. If you think it was wrong, you could just not take part in it. But you're actually at the core of the Hollywood life. You're on every billboard in the USA. You're like the most high paid artist, at least the top 10, right? And it just made me so furious to see so much hypocrisy. There was a time when she was a child. I wouldn't have said anything if she was still like 15 years old, but she's what, 22 years old now? So she's lived all the fame, all the fun, filled her pockets, the mansions that maybe in my lifetime I would never step in, and I don't care. But I am not going to let her step on our truth as people because we were in the middle of this battle of raising our voice for Iran. And then she comes and drops this bomb again, where the left are clapping for her and she's a hero. And now everyone's so happy because she's targeting Trump, whereas Trump is actually supporting the Iranian people. Like, finally, we found a president who's supporting us, and we're trying to put pressure on him to keep supporting us. But from inside of USA, people are targeting him. And I see Billie Eilish on their side throwing another rock at him, whereas the point is totally invalid. Obama's been doing ICE already, so many more deportations. I've searched the results of that. Like, just do a Google search. And for what? For the claps. For the claps that happened that night. Again, a room full of cowards who don't know how to react in front of a camera. So they're all like, ooh, with tears in their eyes. They have no idea what they're talking about because they just want to get over with it and go to the after party. That's the truth of it. And so that really pissed me off because I've spent a lifetime fighting for this, and all I'm doing is making a social media post. If that's going to break your heart, guess what? Our whole lives have been ruined by mixed messages that you guys send and these trends that you create out of fun, and it sets us people back, so many millions of people's lives back. You know, I want them to know how big of consequence their words and actions have because they have the spotlight when they're in every news channel, when they're in every social media page. I don't know why we keep making the same people famous. Like, there's all of these different kinds of talents everywhere in the world, but with power comes responsibility. You didn't want to be torn down or questioned about what you said, then don't say it or get off the platform. You know, I hope that I sent my message clearly, but there's many more instances and many other ways to communicate my point. And that's my challenge, to articulate it well, you know?
Yeah. No, you obviously said it clearly. The people understood what you said because it went viral. You got like almost 20,000 likes off of that, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And The thing is, too, like, I see exactly what you're saying because that's what it feels like, huh? It feels almost like you guys are at war with us. Like, you're at war with the normal everyday person or whoever is going through whatever because you're supporting a narrative that you are told to support by these elitist group of people that are trying to promote this certain agenda. And it feels inauthentic. It feels like it's fake. It feels like you did it on purpose for some clap, and that the people are there reacting and they're all smiling and everything, and they really don't care. They want to go to the after party. They're not really authentically involved in the situation at all. And it feels very hypocritical, but it's worse than that. It feels like there's only a couple of options, and either one is you're completely ignorant, or two is that you know what you're saying, and the worst option. That's the more vile, malicious thing, which is that you aren't ignorant and you know that what you're saying is not true, but you don't care if it hurts me, if it destroys people who happen to vote Republican, if it destroys small town people, Christians, Jews, other immigrants, legal immigrants, if it destroys people inside of Iran that are fighting for actual civil rights and real actual freedoms and real human rights, or people that are stuck inside North Korea, Islamic regimes anywhere, or tyrannical regimes anywhere. The people that are actually fighting the globalistic New World Order type of thing that wants to destroy us. And you know that. And instead of fighting with the people that made you rich and made you famous, instead of being a revolting force to the controlling class, which is what Hollywood used to be. That's what it used to be about. Now you have become an extension of that arm, and you have stabbed us all in the back and have essentially said, well, we would rather sit up here and be rich and famous and do what we do because we want to dodge bullets and we don't want to get in trouble. And even though, yeah, maybe you guys have sacrificed a lot to make the little money that you have and you gave it to us, but we're not going to sacrifice anything to help you guys sitting at home that are watching us right now. Yeah, like that's what it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the case, if they're saying this stuff knowingly, it's pretty scary and dark, right?
Mhm.
I'm not there yet. I can't come to terms with that yet. That's why I said in my video, I like to believe that you want to be a good person.
Yeah,
But how would I know?
yeah. Those are the options. So what I'm saying is, it's like I believe that it's very possible there's a lot of ignorance there. It's very possible that you just don't know. But I also know that that means that if that's true, then the only other option would have to be that dark. There's only two options. Which one it is, we don't know, but there's only two. So we hope that it's ignorant. And if it is ignorant, the good news would be that if you get shown the truth, you'll change your tune. That's what ignorance would do. But if it's not, then we'll know, and then this whole thing gets a lot heavier than it was. And I think that's one of the biggest things with the revolution in Iran, because it feels like on a worldwide global level, this is removing a form of disillusionment and a form of, I don't really know what's going on. And that's why it's important to get to hear what the Iranian people are saying. Because I could say whatever all day long, right? And people will say, well, you were born in the United States, you're a Christian, you're a US citizen, you're not Iranian. Like, you have your opinion, and that's because it helps with whatever. Or just say the same for Jews or Europeans or anybody, Chinese people, whoever it is. When you hear, so it's my word versus theirs. Mullah said, I'm trying to destroy them, and that's why I say what I say. And I say they're wicked and they're trying to destroy us, and that's why they say what they say. And then you have the truth. And when you get to the Iranian people, what you hear overwhelmingly is radical Islam mullahs are completely silencing us, and the only voices that we hear that are on our side are coming from the West. And when you hear that, and it's the truth, that removes this veil of, I don't know what's going on in the world. It's almost like it's forcing the world to have to stare at it and say, do you really believe this or do you really believe that? Now pick a choice and stick with it, right?
Yeah, definitely. As you said, if it's ignorance on Billie Eilish's behalf, then now she has definitely seen all of these reactions. I personally watched at least like 10, 12 videos that stitched her speech and then started clarifying to her what she's saying wrong and how she is wrong. I'm pretty sure it's gotten to her hands and she's watched them, and now she knows that a lot of people were pissed about what she said. So anyone who's truthful is going to gain more information, reevaluate, come back with another statement. Maybe that's not what I meant. This is what I meant, There's always ways to fix your mess ups in life. But I haven't seen anything come out yet. And the funnier thing was these people are defending criminals. They're going up there talking about a criminal who's running away from the law, got shot running away. And how many people were there? While we've got thousands of innocent people just under open fire, children getting tortured, getting raped by the police. Like, how much information do you lack? And if so, what are you doing exactly? What else are you doing in your life? So that's why it was, if you guys had some kind of civil war going on in your country, then we'd be like, okay, they have their own conflicts. It's not even a conflict. That's the job of authority, is to go after the criminals. And now you guys are sympathizing for the criminals, whereas you forgot about the whole rest of the world yet.
Yeah.
Mind blowing.
Yeah. It's like, and that's really what it is. It's like, okay, you want to talk about and illegal immigration. And the reason why is because you're saying we feel empathy for illegal immigrants. Okay. And then you want to ignore the criminals that come in through illegal immigration as well as terrorist jihadists. But leave that out for a second. Just, whatever, murders and whatever. You want to ignore that. And then you want to feel empathy for this group of people, that group of people. You feel empathy for people that are a victim of police brutality. Well, what about the police brutality in Iran? You feel a victim for the people that are victim of murder. What about the people being murdered in Iran? You feel for people that have a secret police that's going out and then taking them off in the middle of the night, as you say that's what I said. What about the people in Iran? Like I saw this video where this ICE officer came up there and he was looking for someone and she was like, I'll never tell you where he is, blah, 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 blah. And it turns out that the person he was looking for was a convicted pedophile. He was looking for a convicted pedophile. And he told her that. And she said, I don't care that he's a pedophile. You guys just need to get out of here. And it's like, see, now that's the point. That's the problem. You say that you have a bleeding heart for these people, these oppressed group of people, whatever group you say. But the most atrocious human rights problem in the entire world that is happening right now is not happening from ICE agents in the United States of America. And it's not happening in Europe, and it's not happening anywhere else except in Iran. It's happening in the middle of Iran right now. That is where the biggest human rights problem in the world is happening. So I can't believe you when you say this is about my empathy for illegal immigrants. This is about my empathy for the Palestinian people. This is about my empathy for these groups of people. I cannot believe you when you say that and then you look at these people. You see every single day faces and names and ages, all young people. Most young people that are coming out, people on there that were killed. This girl that was on there who had like 200,000 Instagram followers, and she's killed because we used to drive motorcycles without a burqa on, and they could see her hair. And you see 7-year-olds that are being shot on purpose to send a message, and you hear people on the phone screaming that uncle's dead, and they also killed cousin so-and-so, and I just saw them shoot a 6-year-old. And you hear this horrendous, evil thing, but you don't say anything about it. Billie, okay, look, if you want to say something about ICE, if you really believe that, whatever, why didn't you say anything about Iran, though? Why do you never say anything about Iran? None of these people say anything about Iran. And that's what makes me feel like I question whether or not you're empathetic. I really question if it's a narrative bias, and that's all that it is.
Yeah. It's so twisted. It's a 180. So if you look at it, they only care about the image of America, like USA, and what happens inside for themselves, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if anything goes wrong, then their lives are going to be a little bit disturbed. So they want to make sure we were not fighting inside. Yeah, I see that. If that's the truth of them, okay? Now, the conservatives are the ones who are actually caring about other people being murdered in other countries, and they call the conservatives fascists. It's like you've got it completely twisted. You're the one who only cares about America, Billie. You're the one who only cares about what's the image of United States, because that little thing she said was just to say, hey, we're good people here. We care about immigrants or whatever,
Yeah,
right? Because it was being broadcasted
that's
all
it.
over the world.
That's what it was.
And your president actually cares more about those innocent lives, and y'all attack him day and night, calling him a racist, calling him a fascist. You don't even know what those words mean.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you actually had awakened to humanity and the unity of us, that I am you and you are me, you could have just been born as me. I could have been born as you. Then you'll realize, hey, what's that little girl gonna do back in Iran? She has nobody to go to. She doesn't even have the police. Her parents are murdered. These are questions that you've probably asked yourself, and that's why you're doing all this on the internet. But the ignorance is just so loud, and what really gets us angry is that they try to twist it around as if we're stupid, as if we don't see how much they prefer their own comfort, their own luxury lives. Billie Eilish has donated 10% of her income to God knows what charity, right? From one pocket to another, to my friends' charities.
Mhm.
What are those charities doing exactly? You think
Mhm.
that's all you have to do in this life?
Mm,
That's all the price that you're gonna pay as the biggest star in the
mm.
United States? We see through it, and I'm not gonna let them get away with this BS, you know? We're just gonna, what can we do other than just be loud and try to inform people?
Yeah. And that's what it feels like too. It feels like, well, this is the price that I pay, right? I give to these charities. And it's always a charity of a friend. It's always a charity that's connected to a liberal democratic politician. It's like, okay, if you had a charity that was ran by political conservatives and you knew it was doing the right thing, would you give them money? That's the real question. It's like, that's it. It's not, I give to these, I don't give to these, political basis, blah, 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 blah. No, are we moral or are we not moral? Where is our morality only ever attached to how our political narrative benefits from it? That's what it is. And that's what I feel about everything that's happening in Iran. It feels like the only people that are not shouting free Iran, the only people that have a problem with that, can only justify that action based off of politics, based off of, I don't like Israel, I like Palestine, and Israel's helping them, so I don't like that. I don't like this, I like Islam, and Islam is against this, so I don't like that. I don't like Trump, and Trump is talking about interference, so therefore I don't like it either because it's pro-Trump. It might make Trump look good.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like what it was with Venezuela. It's like Venezuela was tyrannical. It was a drug empire. It was a prostitution sex slave empire. It was a horrible place. And the people said so too. The people were screaming and shouting, and since then they're cheering in the streets and they're all over the place thanking Trump for setting them free. And is anyone saying we love the we love the Latino people in Venezuela so much? We're so happy that the Venezuelan people got free because we love Venezuelans. Or it becomes, well, we care about all Latinos except Venezuelans because Trump made that. That makes Trump look good. So go ahead and send him back to Venezuela and let them be a tyrannical. government again. And that's how it feels that's what it feels like. Iran is like Venezuela 2.0. It's like just because Trump is involved, now it's like, well, you know, I don't know if I could help support a bunch of people get free. Except in Iran, it's even worse. Iran, the Islamic regime in Iran is way worse, which is hard to say because Maduro is terrible, a horrible person. The drug cartel's crazy. Radical Islam's even worse. Radical Islam, I think, is the worst group of people on the planet. I don't think that there's anything that's more savagery on the earth, except maybe like satanic, like maybe like Jeffrey Epstein's of the world or something that you don't know about. But it can't be much different. They got to be doing the same stuff because if you were involved in that, that seems like what I would be doing is what radical jihads do. So like it's just a crazy thing, man. It's really a crazy thing. I can never ever support. You know, you say you're progressive, but the Islamic regime in Iran is literally living in the 7th century. They are literally living in the 7th century. They are the most backward regime on the earth. They have not developed beyond the 7th century. That's exactly what it is. Like when people, like you were saying, you have to ask your father for permission if you're a woman. Okay, well, let's trace that back, guys. Where do we get that from? We get that from the 7th century. That's where we get it from. Okay, that's how far back in time that these people are. And but where are the women rights people? Where are the feminists? Where are the anti-misogynists? Where are the LGBTQ? They murder homosexuals. They kill. Where's the children's rights activists? Where's like the UN has a thing, we care for every child. What about all the children that are being murdered? And they're not saying anything. It's insane, really.
Yeah, they're giving their incomes to charities like UNICEF, where UNICEF is completely blind to the children dying in Iran and the abuse that's been going on for years. And then they think that that's all they gotta do. And if you remember, there were so many charities for the Palestine movement. I'm pretty sure they collected a big amount of money. It's like, where's that money now? And why are we seeing videos of Palestinian children walking barefoot, looking for food in the trash, whereas this huge amount of money, because they don't have a lot of population, right, has been collected for them. And where did it go exactly? These charity donations that you guys do. Everywhere I went here in Toronto, they were like, the funds are going to Palestine. So who's taking the money exactly? And why is nobody caring about that little kid going through rubbish for food while a grown-ass man is standing in the back of the video with a table full of snacks, selling it to them? If this is a human crisis, we got to share the food with everybody. And the children eat first. Isn't that something you believe? It's like it's right in front of our eyes. They just can't ask the right questions, or maybe this is just all so new when we're new to social media that honestly we haven't been as loud as they are. And that's the problem. But this whole Iran movement is exposing that pro-Pali movement as well.
Yeah.
I also saw a video of this Palestinian girl exposing that the problem has never been Israel. The problem has been Palestinian terrorists who are oppressing us. They get these huge funds. And what do they do with it? They buy missiles and weapons, and we don't get anything. We barely get any food to eat. And who's ever talked about this? No one. They all say it's Israel. Israel's bombing the children. And I understand that in a leadership position, when you're supposed to protect your country and your opponents have no mercy for their own children, it's a pretty tricky spot for Israel to stand. That's why that's why the Palestinian movement has been able to fool everybody, because they have no mercy for their own families. It's pretty sad.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel about it too. I feel like I try to put myself in the shoes of other people, and I put myself in the shoes of Israel and the Jews and Bibi Netanyahu. And I think to myself, what do I do in the situation that the people that they just did a terrorist attack on me and they killed 1,300 people and they kidnapped 200 people, and I gotta go after them, and I gotta end these people for doing this. And I'm thinking about how to do that strategically. And they decide that they're gonna build their rocket launcher inside a school or next to a hospital. And then I'm really starting to realize that they attach their people to their military targets on purpose for the express purpose of either one, to stop me from blowing it up, but you can't do that because then they're going to blow you up, or two, because they know that it's going to get blown up, and that's a sacrifice they're willing to make as long as they can paint that picture. He's out here just killing children. And I try to think that's a very, if you're Israel, if you're Bibi Netanyahu, that's a very hard place to stand. You know, that's not a very easy place to stand. And you know that the whole world is going to say, you're out here blowing up children in Gaza. You know that they're going to say it. But at the same time, Hezbollah's out here blowing up children in Israel. And you're sitting here thinking, exactly how do you morph with a situation like that? And the Palestinian pro-Palestinian movement, which is mostly funded by Hezbollah, and Hamas, which is mostly funded by the Islamic regime in Iran, and I feel that same way. It's almost like it feels like they don't care about their own people. It reminds me of like during the Vietnam War, where they said that people used to walk out with their kid in front of them because they would use it as a human shield, and that the soldiers would do it on purpose. So if the American soldiers would kill them, they would call them a bunch of baby killers. Like, it feels like it's the same exact kind of thing. It's extremely demented. It's extremely insane. You don't know how people can do that. But you also think that why don't other people, I mean, you know, if you're really looking at it, if I'm looking at it like, how can I say that Israel and the Jews and are infinitely worse than the people that held up a kid on purpose so that they could use it as an excuse? That feels a lot more vile to me. I don't understand how people don't see that, or they don't, I don't know. Maybe they just don't believe that they're actually putting those kids right there on purpose.
Yeah, they don't know. And they're getting all of their information from TikTok videos and certain news channels. And they're not even reading the full article, they're just reading the headlines. Whereas I know that Israel, for years, they've been warning every zone that they bombed. They would tell them a week ahead of time. They throw these little papers that would warn people. That's so humane. We've never seen that happen with the Islamic regime in Iran. And when they went and shot a few of our commanders about a year ago, I believe it was, in Iran, you remember, they shot a few certain commanders. I have a YouTube video where I talk about this, and I put the screenshots of these pictures of the building where it's spot hit. So the upstairs level, lights are on, everything's intact. That guy's house, the missile went in. So it wasn't like they wanted to destroy people, innocent people, or they wanted to destroy the country. They wanted to get that terrorist, and they did. They had the military technology and the conscience to not want to kill more people than it was necessary. And I really respect that, because the Islamic regime in Iran doesn't have that conscience. It has no values. It's just putting open fire to everybody. And it's crazy what we're doing to Israel these days. And these people have been bullied all their lives. They came from a Holocaust. And now we keep doing it. At the end of it, Islam, from what I have learned, having lived in Iran, and, they make us read the whole thing. So I know exactly what it's about. Islam is a religion that is for death. It's not about life. Islam tells you to wait for death and promises you things, right? So these people, they start raising their children with the promise of martyrdom, and the fact that, you should be proud to blow yourself up in the path of Islam, you know? And they have it in their book somewhere that Israeli people should be eliminated. So that's their core ideology. And you can understand why this conflict has never settled, because they think that it is the will of Allah to kill all of these people, and that's all we have to do in this life. And it's just such a deep brainwash that's so dark and evil, because when you're always moving towards death and everything is just based on the reward you're gonna get after death, then obviously you're not gonna have any respect for life, right? And it makes sense why they're doing what they're doing here. Even though I don't believe that the Islamic regime believes in anything at all, you know? They're just like, they're having fun with the murders, and they have no values, nothing. But it's important to say these things because it's extreme taboo these days, right? Like, but it's the truth, and we're here to talk about the truth.
Yeah, it's almost like something out of a movie, really, especially with the UN. That's the thing that really throws that over the top to me. That's the thing that totally feels like it's a global shift. It is now, there's this elite group of people in the planet, and there's this movement for freedom across the globe, and they're hitting each other straight on. It's coming to a T, because when the UN did that, I said, this is like something out of a movie. It's like that's what you would see in a movie if they were talking about like the worst possible scenario that could ever happen. That's what they would do. They would that if you ever didn't believe that there was this global effort to create this new world government, which Islamicists already admit out of their own mouth, communists already say that too. Why it would be so hard to believe that there would be one, I don't know. But you see this concerned effort, and now that tells me about the UN. And I wonder about the UN, though. I wonder if the UN, if they're just paid for by Islamicists or communists, or if they're ran by Islamicists or communists. And it makes you wonder, and I believe there's a red-green alliance between communism and Islam, and I believe the MEK is proof of that, because people will try to gaslight you and say, when has communism and Islam ever gotten along together? There's no way that they would ever work together. And it's like, well, there's this whole group called the MEK that's been around for quite some time now, and that proves that they do, in fact, get along when they need to get along. And I think that maybe the communists see Islam as a puppet that they could use to produce communism. And I think that radical Islam mullahs are a whole lot smarter than that. And they know that communists think that they're the puppets, and they think that the communists are the puppets. And they're the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And that's really what it is. But now I wonder, with the UN, who's really in charge of that place? That's what I want to know. I want to know who the heck is behind that, because it's not the US. Donald Trump pulled all the funding out of it. He doesn't want anything to do with it. It's not Israel. Israel hates the people. They go back and forth all the time. I don't think that it's Russia, because Vladimir Putin tends to get into arguments with the UN as well. So it's really interesting who is behind the UN. We know they like the Ayatollah, apparently. So it's a really strange thing, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let me ask you one more thing. What do you think about Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein files? What do you think about that? Have you been paying attention at all?
I don't know the details. What do you want to know about it? About my opinion?
Well, any kind of thoughts that you have on it, really. I don't really know what I think about it as a whole, to be honest.
I see a lot of weird things being said about that. Like, it's one of the points that people hold against, like the leftists hold against Trump, right? That he's trying to distract us from the Epstein files. And then I hear their arguments. They're like, his name once mentioned 30 times in the Epstein files. And I'm like, since when is that an accusation? Name was mentioned? Like, how was it mentioned? And what was being said? But their arguments is always like, his name was mentioned in the Epstein files. No doubt that when people are ultra rich, they go for weird ways of partying and trying to entertain themselves. And maybe at some point, all of these stars and successful people, as we see name after name come out, they were interested to experience the end of the pleasure spectrum. Now, whether they all knew that some people were being hurt in the process, some people were underage, how would we know, right? Because in its own essence, an orgy or a lot of people having sex together is not a crime. It happens all the time. Now, whether people were under pressure, they were slaves, they were underage, that's pretty important detail because if it's not the truth, or if it is, then we're making huge mistakes there. Now, like the fact that somebody had an email to Jeffrey Epstein, does that mean that they knew exactly all of the things that were going on behind the scene? I don't know. The fact that somebody comes up and says, hey, this guy raped me, or, these cases, allegations against people like Trump. I'm not going to defend him because I don't know, but I'm a woman. And I know that if I just go to the police right now and I really want to hurt somebody and I make some false accusation, I have the power to do that. And, years after the incident, there's no way to prove it. And we need to open our eyes to this, that not just every spoken allegation might be true, or it might be, but we need to come up with better ways of verifying and accusing people and putting facts together. That's what I think. And I know it's pretty controversial. What we really need is empowerment of the people who can't protect themselves, the people who didn't say no when they should have said no, the people who didn't report it right away when they should have. And this 18 years, like this legal 18-year age for sex, I don't know when it started because obviously there's probably been a time when this became the law, but we come from years and years of just not really caring about age, right? And for me as an Iranian, the hypocrisy is that in Iran, the marriage age was reduced to like 12, I think. I'm not sure, but it's definitely under 18. It was reduced a few years ago.
Yeah.
In Afghanistan, there's like absolutely no age limit, and nobody cares.
That's crazy.
But there's like 3 people, or I don't know how many people in the Epstein files who might have been under the age of 18. And I sympathize. I understand it's hard. But is that really the biggest issue in the world right now? That's why I don't follow up on it. It's like, it seems like a setup for somebody. They're trying to get somebody down, but they're not being direct about it because now there's too many people involved and shit's gonna go down. You know what I mean? So again, it's a privilege. It's a problem of the privileged. But again, I'm an Iranian and I prefer to stop what's happening today, to so many people.
Yeah, I feel that way as well too, because I think to myself about the Epstein file. Like, I don't really know what I think about that. I'm not really sure how many people are involved, how many people aren't involved. I know he was a weirdo, how many people that were around him that knew what he was doing, that didn't know, that were involved. People hang out in social circles and they take pictures with people even though they don't really know them that well. So it doesn't really prove anything to me that someone was in a picture with somebody. They're, and pedophile sex cults and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, maybe. But what I do know is that, like you were saying, in Afghanistan, there's no age limit. That's what you said. There's no age limit. That is insane to me because I had heard, I think it was in Iraq or somewhere, that an age limit got reduced to like 13 or something like that. I didn't know that Afghanistan had no age limit whatsoever. That is crazy. That's absolutely insane. And so if you talk about pedophile sex cults, because I actually made a video about that too. If you're obsessed with Jeffrey Epstein, why are you not obsessed with the Ayatollah? Why are you not obsessed with Islam? That is the biggest pedophile sex cult on the planet. It is literally a pedophile sex cult. That Muhammad was a pedophile. And we know that not because people around him that didn't like him said that, but because in the Quran itself, it says it. It says that she was 6 years old. You have radicalized group of people that follow the Quran that say Muhammad was the greatest man that ever lived and his morality cannot be questioned. And they seek to imitate him in every single way. And so they do the same. And you see the way they treat women, and they lash them and they rape them and then say it was their fault. They have no rights. They can't show their hair. They don't have the right to drive. They do the same thing for children. There's horrible parts of the Middle East where they use the term that children are for pleasure. It's absolute sick, right? It's asinine. And I don't see how you can be worried about Jeffrey Epstein and not be worried about Islam, radical Islam in the Middle East, which we have. How many people live in the Middle East? There are hundreds of millions of people that are underneath radical Islam. 100 million in Iran alone by itself. But there's so many other places. You have 1.5 billion Muslims in the world. Not all of them are pedophile sex cults. Okay, we understand that. We're not talking about that. But what we are saying is that there is a very large amount of people in that group that are. And there covers a lot of people under that. Hundreds of millions of people are affected by this ideology that it's okay to rape children and women and animals, and it's okay to kill anybody just because you don't like them, and it's okay, and it's all in the name of belief. It's all in the name of religion. It's all in the name of a god, which that's a cult. So if you really want to get rid of a pedophile sex cult, you have to start with radical Islam. And there's super rich, I don't know if people look around or not, there's a lot of oil money in the Middle East. There's super rich billionaires that are involved in that pedophile sex cult. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I don't really know what I think about Epstein. And I want everything that's true to come out. Sure, anybody that's involved, that's a real thing going on, sure, get them all. But, it's really hard for me to believe that if that is all going on, that the people that are involved at the highest echelons of radical Islam were not involved in it. That's really difficult for me to believe, because birds of a feather run together, and they do openly. They don't even try to hide it. That's the difference. That's insane to me.
It's happening right now, today, in Afghanistan, in Iran. Worth mentioning that in Islam, a man is allowed to have multiple wives, and he can have up to 4 permanent wives. Okay, my W's. Wives, and he can have unlimited temporary wives. Basically means he can have unlimited women, and the woman is only allowed to be with one man for the rest of her life, and all of her rights are at the hands of that man. How is this okay in today's world? I don't know. In Afghanistan and also in Iran, but in Afghanistan it's like openly done. They have sex with little boys because they think it's not a sin because they're not women. How dark is that? They have a
How
name
evil
for
is
it.
that?
They put makeup on the boy, and
Yeah,
they have like a culture for it.
I've seen pictures of that.
So when you see people being so obsessed with the Jeffrey Epstein files, it seems like it's a Netflix show to them. They're just entertaining
It
themselves.
feels that. It feels like it's become a form of entertainment. Like it's a drama. Like it's what's going to come out next, who's going to be involved. Like that's almost what it feels like, which in itself feels kind of weird. That feels like you're getting kind of desensitized, maybe. I don't know. Or at a touch, you don't really understand what's going on or who's being involved with. And yeah, I remember seeing pictures of little boys and makeup and stuff like that. That is, what is that, man? Like, that's the most grotesque thing on the planet. And it's not a sin because they're not women. But this is coming from the same group of people that kill homosexuals. If it's a full grown man, what is that? Like, the thing with radical jihad is that there is no sense to be made. Like I was talking to that other woman, that guest, she came from Iran, and she said she lives in Canada too. She said that Islam is a loophole of loopholes. That's what it is. It's just a loophole of loopholes. And I was like, I've never heard it said better. That's exactly what it is. It's a loophole of loopholes to promote whatever you feel like promoting at any given time. It's complete lawlessness, really.
Yeah. I have no idea why they chose such a dark way to live. Because life is just so beautiful, and we could all just, we could have lived such better lives. They could have made such better choices. Even the supreme leader of Iran, they say he's gay.
Really.
But obviously, they execute the gays. But for themselves, they do whatever they want. There was this Quran teacher, he was like the best in the country, came out, he molested so many kids and raped them. So it's all hypocrisy, and it's just like pure evil, is what I say. Who would be okay, even if they had an actual religion with some kind of structure and boundaries, then we would know who we're dealing with. But right now, like, anything could come out of these people. We're being surprised every single day about how much worse they can be. Imagine in the middle of the protests in Iran, people have reported that they were captured and they were trying to group rape them in the van. So in the
Yeah.
middle of all this chaos, how do you have the time to rape somebody? How do
Uh-huh.
you have the motive to rape somebody? You're pretty animalistic. It's like
Yeah.
I can't even say if they're humans. It's like they haven't developed yet or evolved to a human yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it feels like, though. It feels animalistic. Like there's nothing that's really running through your mind at all, except get away with as much as I could get away with.
Yeah. Okay. Any closing lines?
Yeah. I was going to say two things. One was going to be where can like people hear your music and or whatever things that you're working on creatively. And the second one after that would be, or before, whichever, if there was anything at all that you wanted to tell the world on behalf of the people in Iran, whoever was listening, they needed to hear about it, what would that be?
For sure. So you can find me everywhere under the name Sadie Eliza, on Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram. And honestly, what do I want the world to know? I want the world to be less hypnotized by the media, start thinking for themselves, figure out what their values are, stop dragging these labels and identities, and just be light, be free to switch back and forth wherever you're needed in the world. You don't have to stick to one thing that you were 10 years ago. And I think the solution to everything is putting yourself in everybody's shoes one time, like in your head. It's like, what if I was an Indian? What if I was a European? What if I was an Iranian? What if I was in Afghanistan? That's the only way we can come to unity, if that's they tr- what they truly believe. And then we can find the solutions. The solutions are like right in front of us. It's just that we're all fighting together so much that we're forgetting the actual fact that we're here to make this world a better place. Like, what else are we doing? Everything has already been invented. We've overcome nature. We have all the food that we ever need, and we can generate so much more. Like, our technology is far beyond our evolution as our consciousness, the evolution of our consciousness. Like, we're going so fast in the technology department that we've forgotten all the people who are being crushed in different systems. Where exactly are we going if we're going to leave behind all of these innocent lives? And I truly believe that there is a portion of the population that wants to be good, and they're just not educated enough. And the first step is to stop hating so much. Like, come back to what feels like love in you, and from there we can do something. But with hate, I don't think that we can create anything that's worthy. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. From hate, you can't create anything that's worthy. It has to be created from a place of love. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so awesome. All right, so it was great having you on. It was a great conversation, really. I didn't expect it to
Yes,
go as
thank
long
you.
as it did, but it went pretty long.
Yeah, it was wonderful talking to you, and you're so wise and informed, it just feels like a fresh breath of air in the world that in a world where we're constantly being shut down and dismissed and invalidated. So I appreciate the work that you do and for being so brave because I know that there's so much resistance out there against this information. But we're there with you. Thank you.
I appreciate you guys very much for coming on the show and talking. So God bless. I'm with you guys. I'm with Iran all the way through, the Iranian people and everybody, of course. And we're going to keep going until the revolution is totally finalized and then even afterward and everything that has to happen. So that's the great part. God bless. I hope you have a good rest of your
Thanks.
night.
You too. God bless. And hopefully we'll host you in free Iran one day.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to Tehran as soon as it's all free for sure.
Sounds good. All right. Take care, Josh.
You
Have a
too.
good night. Bye.